welcoming everyone to another special meeting discussing the mayor's budget for 2021. I need a motion to reconvene the meeting from September 29. Do I have a motion?
Motion to reconvene.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Nays, the motion carries. So the first thing tonight is the mayor wants to make some comments. So Mayor.
Yeah, I wanted to update any council members online and anyone in the public watching on an incident that happened earlier this afternoon that we were made aware of. There was a house in Fitchburg that had a Halloween decoration that was done in very poor taste. When we found out about that, we did contact the owner of the property, explain why it was something that we really don't want here in any of our communities. And they did say that when they got home from work that they would take that down. It should be down now. And so I just wanted anyone in the public watching, any alders, to know that it is down. Thank you to the police officers who made that initial contact. I know Alder Maldonado also made a contact with that person, so thank you for that. And so I just wanted to let people know that it should be taken down by now, and we have taken care of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Okay, so next in our agenda is Misty Dodge, our Director of Finance. She wants to make some additional comments.
Yeah, so first I wanted to point out a change that was made this morning to the mayor's letter. Brought to my attention that I included a statistic that was basically not saying what I thought it was saying. So we fixed that. It's that modified item number 1 here, the commitment to taxpayers. So that is reworded and it's updated on the city's website if you're interested in reading that new language. The other thing I wanted to do is I forgot to offer it up to everybody on the council. If you're interested in meeting with me to talk about, what the budget document is and says, how to read it, where to look for stuff, more than happy to meet with you individually. Just shoot me an email. It usually takes about a little over an hour to go through it for my whole spiel. Obviously, that can be tailored depending on what in particular you're looking at, but more than happy to set up a Zoom call to go through that. Really just the kind of the logistics and mechanics of how the budget document works. Because there is a lot of information in here, especially on like the summary side. Something else that came up during the last meetings was on the expenditures. So just wanted to remind everybody that as at the heart of what the city is we're a service provider. In order to provide those services, the bulk of our cost is personnel. So a lot of the things that we talk about and a lot of the things that's attributing to our increases are because of the personnel. So it's about 73% of the general fund is wages and benefits. I wanted to point that out too. Other than that, we'll do the same format as what we did last night, just with your next set of department heads. So we'll focus on that executive summary again, the accomplishments, initiatives, significant changes, and then if there was any new staffing proposal and whether or not that was included in the mayor's proposed budget. And then at the end of tonight, I'll go through the next steps with you guys as far as the amendment process and all of that. So lots more great discussion to happen during this information gathering stage. So thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Misty. So the next presentation of the first presentation of the night will be from the information technology. So Matt.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yep. So to start with what we are doing or have done this year, obviously, like many departments, the COVID situation changed most of our plans for the year, and we spent a significant amount of time getting staff prepared and capable of working from home. And we continue to support those endeavors throughout the rest of this year. Aside from that curveball that was thrown at us this year, other things that were planned and that we are accomplishing are installing the new technology in the Lacey Road Fire Station as part of that remodel process. We replaced the network switches at the library per our scheduled replacement plan. We are in the process of replacing the city's telephone service. We implemented a cloud backup solution to provide a third backup location for the city's data. That was a new initiative in this year's budget. We are in the process of still migrating data center equipment to the OneNet data center. That's something that was put on hold due to the closure of the OneNet data center to anything other than emergencies due to COVID. They are back up and running and allowing people back into their facility. So we are once again moving equipment to that location. We upgraded the on-base content management system, and we are working with departments to enhance the offerings of that system. We are 3 weeks away from go live of a new police RMS system, not only for the city of Fitchburg, but for our partners in Middleton, Sun Prairie, Verona, and Monona. That's a culmination of a more than 2-year project. And so that is taking up a lot of our time currently as we're getting ready to make a switch in that system. The last time we did that was in 2004. So that's roughly a 16-year project, or once every 16-year project. And then finally, from the MPSIS side, in addition to that project, we're also working on the development of an online portal that will provide police data and statistics for those 5 police agencies for members of the public to view. Initiatives coming in 2021 then, we are changing our PC replacement plan and looking at trying to provide laptops for any staff who are capable of working remotely, as opposed to replacing PCs with new PCs. We also have in 2021 the replacement of the city's firewalls. The city's firewalls were supposed to be replaced this year, but we did not want to change such a critical component of our network in the middle of the COVID situation. So we pushed that into 2021. We will continue to migrate some of our secondary services from City Hall to OneNet so that by the end of 2021, we will have all of our production systems there and all of our backup systems at City Hall. Next year, we're going to replace our core network switches, which is a pretty significant job. Another big project for next year is going to be refreshing the city's website. We are entitled to a refresh of the website through our existing contract with our website provider. So we will kick off that project early next year. And on the MPSIS side, in addition to just getting used to our new records management system, we're also going to implement an interface to the district attorney's office, which allows all of those agencies to electronically submit information to the district attorney's office rather than have to drive down to the DA's office. So significant budget changes from 20 to 21. There is a new amount, or what appears to be a new amount in the budget for our backup renewal. It's not a new initiative, but it wasn't in the 2020 budget because when we purchased the system 3 years ago, we purchased a 3-year term. So now we are at the point where we have to renew that system. It's essential software we use to back up and store all city data, including the city file servers, the police file servers, fact content, police body camera data, and vehicle camera data, everything else that we have. Another budget change is the addition of some additional Microsoft licensing that will allow us to do some additional security functionality related to our Office 365 environment, which has become more critical and more used in the telework environment that we're now in. We removed out-of-state travel from our budget per the mayor's directive. We have cut computer replacement funding for 2021. Part of it is due to changing the way the computer replacement schedule is going to work. As we're replacing PCs with laptops, we anticipate laptops will last longer. And so the replacement for those will span out to 4 or 5 years, depending on their useful lifespan. The other $32,000 of that cut was a delay in the replacement of police squad computers from 2021 to 2022. We had all of the police squad car computers budgeted to be replaced in 2021. We're going to span that across 2 years rather than 1. Those computers are extremely expensive. That replacement generally costs about $3,800 per computer. And so then a couple of other items. There is a new proposal to add teleconferencing subscriptions, primarily Zoom, obviously for the telework environment we're in. And then we are adding internet access at City Hall to provide backup services for the connections to OneNeck, where all of our production systems are going to be. And finally, in that final account there, we are decreasing telephone service fees by about $14,000 due to the new telephone service provider that's going into place hopefully in the next couple months here. So the one new proposal we had for personnel this year is the same proposal we had last year. It is for a GIS coordinator position. This proposal is really a joint request from a number of departments listed there. You can see Public Works, Utility Assessing, Fire, Police. This is not in the mayor's budget, but the position is requested because we have a critical need to provide more robust GIS services to our departments. Most of our departments use GIS. If you're not familiar with GIS, it's essentially a mapping system. Much of our work in Public Works and Utility and Planning and a number of other departments rely on GIS data. And we currently have a single engineering tech that has a portion of their time allocated towards GIS work. It's not enough. We can't get done what we need to do. And so we have identified this now for the last 2 years as a need for the city as a whole. Misty, how are you handling these questions?
People post the question in the chat, and I'm gonna read it to you, Matt.
Okay, great.
Are you done with your presentation?
I am, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 questions, one from Gabriela.
Hi, Matt. Thanks so much. A couple of questions for you. First, regarding the website refresh next year, I'm excited to hear that that's happening. You know, I've obviously been navigating the website a lot more than I was in the past, given my role, and I do have some challenges with it pretty regularly. I was curious if there's any plan to do some sort of input process, either internally through staff and alders or externally through the public.
So our intention is to do what we did the last time that we developed the website. We have a work group of staff made up of representatives from most departments who get together and, the first phase of the process is just figuring out what exactly we're going to do. How are we going to refresh it? What are we looking to accomplish? So we attempted to kick off that process early this year, and then COVID hit, and we decided that we were all trying to figure out, how to do our jobs today so much differently than we have in the past that we elected to just postpone it for a year. So that process will kick off again early next year. And yes, it will be a collaborative process across all departments, figure out how best to refresh the website.
Great. And my understanding is that in terms of website updates, city staff are typically tasked with doing the updates themselves for their portion of the website. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's distributed across all departments. So each department has responsibility over their portion of the website.
Okay. And then a different question, or this might be better answered by Misty, but in terms of the police squad computers, is that not a part of the lease? That's separate from the car leases?
Correct. And Matt, actually, you can answer that one.
Yep. They are separate. So we do not purchase computer equipment with the vehicles. So that includes not only laptops, but also the cameras that are in the car, some of the other computer equipment that's in the car. If we have a vehicle replacement, we can pick up and take that equipment, that technology, and move it from one vehicle to another. So those laptops and the laptops and some other technology in those cars are on a separate replacement cycle from the squads themselves.
Great. And then is there any opportunity to recycle or sell off that equipment to either another department or some other use for it?
Yep. So a lot of our equipment, we actually do that with. So the primary equipment, like the laptops that are in the squads today, when they get pulled out, we use them in other places. So we put them into like our public works department, or excuse me, our building maintenance department has laptops in some of their HVAC rooms and places like that. We will move those laptops to those rooms because they're actually well suited for that. They're rugged, they can withstand the environment that they're in. So in a lot of cases, we move a lot of that equipment to sort of a secondary use for the next 3 years before they eventually get recycled.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep, you bet.
Next question is from Dorothy.
Thank you. Matt, for your GIS person you're looking for, I sat through many or most of the meetings for redistricting 10 years ago. And I know there was a lot of mapping being done as part of that. How much would your GIS person be helping with that process if we had someone in place by then? And or how difficult or easier would it be whether we had someone or not?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure I can answer that because I'm not sure what requirements of the city will be made related to mapping. I can tell you that our map data that primarily our public works staff are creating is uploaded to Dane County. So the Dane County data that they have contains the portion that is created by each of the municipalities. I'm not sure what requirements they're going to have of us. I don't know that we've heard that yet. I would anticipate that they're going to have to get involved and they will have to provide some sort of data. I just don't think we've heard yet what that's going to be.
Well, just as a real quick, what they were doing in the meetings was they were doing all kinds of what if scenarios for how to map out the city and rearrange things.
Sure.
It was a really involved process, and I'm not certain which department in the city was doing it. I would suspect that Wade might end up being the person who ends up sitting in that seat, but I really don't know yet.
That's certainly possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next question, Aaron.
Yeah, the GIS position is one of those positions that when I talk about we are going to need for sure in the next 2 or 3 years. I think based on what I remember from the different presentations is that it's not something that we're going to need to add into next year's budget for sure, because like Matt talked about, so many departments need it. And I believe Public Works maybe is going to talk about this, but there's some things that we're required to do, and we just, the half person or the part-time person that does the GIS needs more time and can't get those things done. And so it is a position that next year we have to add. I would like to do it this year, but as you know, as you can see, the budget is very thin as it is. So just wanted to kind of put that on people's radar.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
So next presentation is from the library. So Wendy, are you here?
I am here.
Okay.
All right. So as is the case with every department, we have spent most of 2020 adjusting to the COVID-19 pandemic. We closed in March to the public, opened up late May, early June, I believe, to start doing curbside services. We started curbside 3 or 4 days a week, 2 hours at a time. We have been able to expand that now. So we're doing it 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. So we're trying to mimic our normal open hours. We have put extra resources into digital resources. So the Overdrive, if any of you are familiar with using ebooks, Overdrive or the Libby app, we've transferred some funds into that so that we're providing more copies of bestsellers to our patrons. Staff have also had to really quickly learn how to do video editing so that they can produce online content for story times. Adult services is doing some adult programs as well. So they've all learned a whole new skill set. And we also investigated and implemented software called Beanstack that we were able to use to run the summer reading program completely online this year. So we did still have prizes that people could pick up when they were when we got to doing curbside. They could pick up their prizes through curbside. We are also now actually using it for a fall reading program, which we've never done before. So that's been good. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is we do have an inclusive services. Oh, sorry, I have a very loud cat. An inclusive services work group that is part of our strategic plan. And we just wrapped up in March before we shut down, doing an assessment through DBI. So it's us taking a look at our services and our facilities and making sure that we are inclusive to everyone in our community. And I'll bring that up again when we're talking about what we're going to be doing next year. So all of our new initiatives are always tied into our strategic plan. We've got a 5-year plan, 2018 through 23. The 4 goals are listed here. So we are always trying to take any projects that we're working on and making sure that they fit into this plan. And I just wanted to make a note that anything we're doing is going to have to be considered in light of COVID-19, because as we'd all like that to be over real soon, I think we're going to go into 2021 trying to figure out how to cope with that ongoing. All right. So as I was putting the budget together, sort of my focus was really, we've got this increase due to expenditure restraint, which is great, but I feel like we've got probably 2 or 3 years coming that are going to be really challenging budget-wise. So I didn't feel like it was a good idea to add any ongoing operating costs. So adding staff, adding new services that would need to be ongoing didn't seem like a great idea to me. So we are focusing more on using this for facility projects. So as you see here, we've got $19,450 to begin LED lighting conversion. Unfortunately, when the library was built 10 years ago, LED lighting was not affordable yet. So we are full of fluorescent lights that take a lot of bulb replacements, but we're also coming up on a lot of the ballasts needing to be replaced as well, which is pretty pricey. So what we're hoping to do is be able to rewire our existing fixtures with the help of Kevin Richmond from building maintenance and his guys, so that we can rewire everything for LED. That takes away the need for ballast replacements in the future. And it would, I think, cut our energy use in about half. So I think that's a really good investment of the increase that we're going to see. And then some money to start replacing meeting room tables. So again, coming up on 10 years, our meeting rooms are used about 1,000 times a year. And that furniture just gets used really hard. So the tables are not actually falling apart yet, but they're coming up on it pretty quick. So we thought we would go ahead and take the opportunity to replace those. And then we're starting to have stacked task chairs that are just falling apart. So most of our stuff is still in really good shape. I think we chose well when we chose the furniture 10 years ago, but it's not going to last forever. So those are the kind of things that we would like to focus on this year.
Wendy, do you want to talk real quick about the relationship from council to library board and who has control over the budget?
Sure. So the library board is kind of a unique animal in that it is statutorily charged with overseeing all the expenditures of the library. So typically what happens is that we get the increase from net new construction. And I like Misty's phrase is, and then it gets thrown over the wall to the library board, and the library board is in charge of kind of overseeing those expenses or expenditures. Does that cover it, Misty?
Yeah, so it's net new construction is what it's been in the past. This year it actually flipped to expenditure restraint. So it's whichever one of those constraints is less is what we've been allocating to the library. So council, if you chose, you could change how much money you give to the library in total, but you wouldn't have control over saying, we want you to cut LED lighting, for example. The library board would have control over how they spend that money.
Any other question? No? Okay, thank you, Wendy.
Okay, thank you.
So next in our presentation is the assessing department. Amy, are you ready?
All right, so some of our significant accomplishments, we did our full revaluation this year. And so we updated to the 2018 cost tables. So that what that means is the Department of Revenue periodically updates their cost tables. And when we value the residential properties, we value those on using a sales modified cost approach. So we use those new costs. In doing that process, we have to remove all the past modifiers, all the neighborhood modifiers, all the past individual modifiers, and then we look at those new costs and the new land values, and then look and review all of the sales that we have to review each year. This year we had, I think, over 800 sales this last year. We had over 1,000 building permits. And so we go to all the sales, we go to all the parcels that have new building permits on it. We did a lot with the commercial properties this year. Previously, the majority were not listed in the CAMA system. And so we listed every single commercial property within the CAMA system, both using the building attributes, which is the cost module, and then also using an income and expense, the income and expense data. So there's 3 approaches to value: the income approach, the cost, and the sales approach. And so we worked through all of that with the commercial and got all of those revalued. We also listed all of the mobile home park. We went out and measured all of the mobile homes, listed those, got those all put into our CAMA system. We did all standardized land tables in the CAMA system so that everything was equitable and consistent between each neighborhood. We also looked at all the rural properties throughout the city. And in that, again, we adjusted those land tables and brought those up to value. Those values had not changed since 2005, so they were pretty dramatic changes to those properties. We also updated to the large municipality version for our CAMA system. And we created a lot based on the commercial properties. We created various new neighborhoods so we can analyze those sales going forward. We also did a cross-reference between, the CAMA system allows us to cross-reference between the commercial properties and those personal property accounts that we also have to assess. In doing that, we found about 200 new personal property accounts within the city that we've listed and added into the CAMA system. Some new initiatives for 2021. Well, right now we're still in border review. Sorry about that. We're still in border review, so we're probably going to be about 3 months behind in getting our field work done. Typically we have about 6 months to do our field work. So we're going to be behind half of that time. And I really don't know how we're going to get it done this year. So we have, let's see, so with that, our new commercial appraiser, when we reviewed all the commercial, there's really a need to go out and remeasure and double check all of that data in person. So I was hoping to do a 5-year cycle because the commercial take more time than residential. The commercial appraiser should be able to get to about 125 properties in a year, much less than what the residential property would view. The commercial appraiser also will need to go to all of the personal property accounts and verify those. Financially, we've requested to, and it's included in the budget, to acquire a subscription to CoStar for the commercial properties. CoStar is it's a company that calculates all of the cap rates around the country. And they also look at sales, they collect income, expense, all kinds of other data that's really important for our commercial, which will help us defend those commercial values. CoStar is also, a lot of communities use CoStar, their economic development, use a CoStar. So I think it will be not only beneficial to us, but also planning and economic development. And it's just in our budget, but I think it will be beneficial to both of those departments also. We still have about 3,000 residential properties to draw into our CAMA system. The state had mandated that originally it was 2011, and then they changed the date to 2013. They had mandated that all assessment records were to be electronic, and that has not been the case here in Fitchburg. So we still have about 3,000 residential properties to draw within the CAMA system. And that's one of the reasons I was really hoping to have an intern so they could help us get that in and help us with those phone calls and scheduling appointments, pulling files and all of that. So significant budget changes would be the subscription to CoStar. And then also, there's also a Marshall and Swift commercial cost estimator. So currently within Market Drive, they have a program called MVP, Marshall Valuation Program, and it values there. The Marshall and Swift cost estimator is like an outside program. That one is what many property appraisers or who we would have to defend these values to. They often use that cost estimator. Our CAMA system cost estimator is much more detailed than the Marshall and Swift cost estimator. And so our current commercial appraiser prefers to use this cost estimator in order to better defend those values. So then we also, we requested an intern. This is the second year for an intern. Prior to that, we had requested a full-time employee. And I know Dell had said he should have requested a full-time employee 2 years ago. I've tried 2 years now to get an intern, trying to get someone to be able to help us part-time and keep those costs significantly down using a part-time person instead of a full-time person. This intern would help us, and this is not included in the current budget. The intern would help us answering phone calls, scheduling appointments, pulling files, sending letters, all of those things that when the appraiser's out in the field, those are things I'm doing. And I think it's a waste of money for, you're paying me a lot more money than we would pay an intern to do a lot of those tasks. And then this year, this year alone, I have about 430 hours of additional hours I've put in already this year over my normal hours. I haven't used any of my personal time. My vacation time is, I'm allowed 3 weeks vacation, and I carried over a week last year. And I still have almost 4 weeks of vacation with the week from last year. So I'm pretty burnt out. And in my opinion, we really need this part-time person to help us get our work done. I wouldn't ask for it if I didn't need it. To me, it's very small amount of costs. And I know how the budgets all work in that, but to me, 9,000, just over $9,000 is pretty minimal for us to have someone help alleviate some of that overtime. My staff, completely racked up their time for comp time and overtime. We went over on overtime pay so far this year, and I have to juggle things that way. And our workload just isn't getting any less. I projected numbers for what we have to get to, and they're even higher than what we went to last year. And we don't have all the special projects, but right now I'm at, if I project out with building permits and sales, and then we have to do the ag drive-bys every year, that's required. We had 800 personal property that we have to review. So I'm estimating about 3,400 properties that we have to view this year. And I don't know how we're gonna get it done. And that's just for the budget we're on now, and that's gonna push into next year, which will put us behind next year again. So, and then we have the town of Madison coming up, and so it would, in my opinion, it would be better to get someone here now so that we can train them and get us moving in that direction. And that's why I've really requested this. The intern position would actually be working through the school district. They have a program through the Dane County School Consortium. And so it's a youth apprenticeship program.
Oh, yeah.
And so the program is really nice. They will help train the person. So it's not like I'm gonna have to do a lot of training. I still have to do training, but they will help the training. There are tasks that we could help them move into a career, because assessing is one career that you would not have to have a degree for. So someone in high school could go through this program who might be really good at math and numbers, but couldn't afford to go to college. And so it would be a program that we could assist one person, it's just one, but it's a program where we could assist one person with moving through and getting them educated in the assessment field, and continuing to teach them about assessing and what it is, and sketching, different tools, and then hopefully after they would graduate, they'd be able to go out in the field, and maybe that point we'd have enough years here that they could be on the full time if we get to that point of hiring a full-time person. So.
Okay, thank you, Amy. I have a couple of questions for you in the chat, okay? So we are gonna start with Randy.
My question goes back to the significant accomplishments in 2020. Your last bullet point references cross-reference commercial and personal property accounts. And you had mentioned, Amy, that something about you found 20 personal property accounts. Can you just elaborate a little bit on cross-referencing?
Yep.
You move them back and forth, or go ahead.
So in our CAMA system, and I'd be happy for any of you to come in and show you our CAMA system. I can even do it electronically through a Zoom meeting and share my screen. But the CAMA system we use, you have one module that is using the cost and sales. And then we have a personal property module. So every business that's out there, you might have, let's think of a strip retail mall, okay? You have Pizza Hut. So one person owns the real estate, and then Pizza Hut leases it. So they would have a personal property account. US Cellular would have a personal property account. Laredo's has a personal property account. So when we did these drive-bys, you're able to, there's a function in the program that you can tie it to a parcel number. So when you enter in the personal property and all of their business assets, we can tie that to the real estate. And then we tie the real estate to the personal property. We cross-reference the two. And when you do that, we found that, hey, there's a bunch of real estate that doesn't have personal property on, and vice versa. So you're able to see that and distinguish how many extra accounts were not being valued in the past. A lot of the system, they just were not using the system fully to its power. The system, we can put in every address, like in a strip mall, you can put in every suite number, and that also cross-references and says, wait a minute, we only have 4 out of the 10 suite numbers with personal property. So then we actually get a list, and we can go out and say, hey, where are these other accounts at? are they vacant? And I'm like, no, I know that, let's say US Cellular is in this business, and then we can capture that value. So there were 200 accounts, 198, I think it was, that we did not have before, that we found as new accounts this year. And so, you know, and some people are like, oh, you know, we've been here for 15 years. And I'm like, I understand, you know, we just didn't have it valued.
And if I can interrupt for just a second. So the reason why that's important is that those are properties that aren't paying their fair share. So once Amy's using the word find, once we realize these accounts aren't paying their fair share, it doesn't mean that we're collecting more money. So it's not like it's more money that's coming to the city. It just means that other property owners are paying their piece of it.
Yeah. And, you know, the distribution is different than for everyone. And that, you know, it's not fair for one person to pay for their personal property and another business not to. You know, so we've done a lot within, by putting all of the data into the CAMA system. It really helps us to have better and more accurate records, more defendable values, defendable records. Every year we create it's called an annual assessor's report. And last year it was about 1 inch thick, and this year it's almost 3 inches thick. So that's all the extra work that we've been doing. And it's actually work that you're supposed to be doing based on state statutes and mandates that really has not been done. And it's hard for me personally to sign my name to a role and know that, like, I can't do my job to its fullest potential. And, you know, I don't want to sign my name to something that says and know that I'm not doing my job. I don't know how to explain that, but
it sounds like you, based on your work, you're creating significant value. I mean, the integrity has been improved.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your answer.
And I want to do a follow-up question about that. Do you know how much money those 200 new businesses are going to generate in personal property taxes?
I do not.
Okay.
I could probably use a filter and figure out what are new accounts and then do an assessment roll based on that and get you that number if you would think that.
Okay.
I just want to remind people though that money wouldn't be able to be used to pay for the intern because it's just a redistribution of how that.
Yeah, no, I asked that question because I have been doing the personal property taxes in my company for 15 years. I'm the charge and I know how it works. And I know that some municipalities are very more, when someone registers to a new business or a liquor license, they know that there is a new business and they can go and send the first bill of, so.
And that's one thing they don't do here that, you know, I did suggest, I think it was last year when I first took over. Some communities, when a new business comes in, they're issued an occupancy permit. It's not occupancy exactly. like occupancy that the building is safe for you to move into it, but it's an occupancy permit and it actually can generate money for the city. So that is an option the city could do. When I worked in Janesville, they used that and they had that. And they have a system all in place there that we could actually look at and do a similar process. It typically goes through building inspection, I believe, would be the ones that would collect that. But I don't know if they would have to. I think you could set it up electronically. If the city, I don't know, Misty, you would have to know that if we had that option. But it is a way, and then that way the fire and the police know who's there, and everybody knows who's the occupant and who's the owner, and they have the contact phone numbers for everything. So it works in another direction also of that safety, who to contact when, you know, if there is a fire or someone broke into a store or something. And it's kind of like one general database that you can use for all the departments then.
Okay, thank you, Amy. The next question is from Gabriela.
Hi, Amy. I appreciate you giving some context about the intern proposal. I'm curious if you have a sense of what the assessing staff looks like in other similar sized municipalities. Do you know, is ours equivalent? Are we understaffed compared to similar municipalities in the area?
Well, for the size of our municipality, we're probably at the right amount of staff. For what our growth is, I believe we're understaffed. Our growth, a typical residential appraiser can go to 500 to 800 a year properties. 500 for someone new and 800 if you're really experienced. A typical commercial appraiser, I said it's about that 100 to 150 properties. So, you know, we have a new commercial appraiser who's very experienced. So I think he'll be able to handle the commercial. But in Fitchburg, we also have almost half the city that's rural and agricultural. So our community here is very different than most communities. It's like Perry said, he's never seen as diverse commercial as he sees here. And he's worked in a lot of jurisdictions. Here, your residential appraisers, they have to be knowledgeable. A lot of communities will primarily be all like residential and commercial, and they will have very minimal agricultural. Here we have agricultural, we have rural residential, so you have to analyze that. You know, our properties, residential, go from like condos that might sell for $70,000, they're little small apartment condos, up to we've got over almost $2 million rural property at the high end of almost $2 million that they're assessed at. So we have homes that have elevators in. We have homes that have 2-story basketball courts in. So we spend a lot more time analyzing. And, you know, I've been trying to set up the model, our CAMA system, so those basketball courts and that, sorry, my light goes out. You know, so I can set those up and they can just data enter it. So those are a lot of the programming. You know, I do a lot of programming that a lot of assessors, the IT department does that programming for them. So on our end, you know, it's programming, modeling, you know, those concepts. So here we almost have to analyze and revalue every year because our community is just so diverse. Our average increase last year was 6.5% based on the market. But like many of you know, certain neighborhoods that are under that 330, median residential, if you're under that 300,000, those markets on those go up much more because you have a greater demand for those homes. And so people are outbidding each other or going over asking prices. And so we have to, we almost have to revalue every year, where a lot of jurisdictions don't have to do that. And they don't have the amount of sales and they don't have the amount of new construction that we have going on.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Next question is from Dorothy.
Thank you. In my wild and crazy thought process, Amy's got me wondering if we have staff already on board, and I'm thinking particularly library, that is being totally underutilized, at least for the duration of the COVID shutdown stuff, that could potentially be brought in to Amy's office to help do some catch-up work with her. Don't know if that's a reasonable possibility or not, but it would be something I would think worth checking out.
I know for this assessment role, we used a lot of finance assisted us and Joyce assisted us with personal property data entry. There are certain duties that others could do. But a lot of our duties, you have to be certified to do certain duties. And so, you know, like Joyce and Becky and Carrie and Christy, they all helped us with data entering the personal property and opening, stamping, those type of things last year during that time frame. So there are some duties that someone could assist us with, but a lot of the field, you know, the fielding and the walking through the properties and all of that, people could help us with mailings, things like that at times. So, you know, I'm not opposed. I tell everybody I'll take whatever help you give me. So I'll find work if I can, or rearrange our work.
Okay, thank you.
Amy, I have a couple of questions from myself. So, you know, I am looking at your budget, and you know, you know, you're looking for an intern for $9,000. Is there any way where in your budget that you can find those $9,000?
We don't have a whole, we're on a pretty limited budget. The majority of my budget, if you look at the itemized part, you know.
Yeah, I was looking at that, but
Yeah, the board of review, we're probably gonna run over this year because we've had more than the, you know, 2 meetings. So this year we're gonna have 4 meetings, so I'm gonna have to juggle that as each year goes. So I gotta kind of steal from another one to juggle into that because we weren't expecting this to be like this year.
What is that $34,000 for the this is the Department of Revenue, the manufacturing fee? What is that paying you for? What is accessing the database?
That is a fee that, since the state does the manufacturing,
Yeah.
they send us a bill every year. And we don't calculate that. That's a bill, and all I can do is estimate what it's going to be based off of the new manufacturing properties. So that's why in this year I put the same number in as last year because last year it was under. And a lot of the properties we were thinking would be 100%, they actually still had us assessed this year. So I don't really know. They do a math calculation and we just get a bill for it. So I think I looked at the 5-year, and somewhere in here Misty had a 5-year for that item. So that's the large item, and I don't control that number.
I didn't know that the DOR sent a bill to the municipality.
Yeah, so we pay them for that, and that's one of the largest items.
Yeah.
You know, the computer related, that's for our cost of market drive, the web access, that's for our assessor data website, where that's really been beneficial. That's really limited the calls to us. So I don't know if you know that, but you can go out to assessor data and view your data on each property. So, you know, realtors, appraisers, they all look at that. Laredo, that's a program with the county that we use each year. And so there's a monthly fee and then a printing fee. And if you go over, well, Laredo's in our budget, but building inspection, planning, a lot of times economic development, sometimes Misty, sometimes Valerie, they'll ask us to search things out in there. So Laredo is a program that we search out deeds and all the recorded transactions with the Dane County. So I can search out past sales, mortgages, anything like that in Laredo that's been recorded. So we use it and it's in our budget, but other departments also are using that. A lot of the rest, office supplies, postage, the outsource, that all has to do with sending out our assessment notices. And so I calculate everything based on how many parcels we have for that. You know, and the rest.
Yeah, I know. You don't have.
We don't have a whole lot. And so usually when I have to steal, I steal it from our education fund. And I just say, well, somebody's not going to the league this year or something like that. So we don't have any way to create revenue, we really can't because of assessing. So there isn't any way to really generate new revenue for our department.
Okay, so yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, for
No,
all
fine.
the many hours, and I know that this year has been rough for you guys with the assessment. A lot of work. We'll see what we can do. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Amy.
All right, thank you.
So next presentation is the clerk department. So Tracy.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So some of the significant accomplishments that the clerk's office has done in 2020 is the implementation of the electronic poll books. These are the Badger books. These have actually been even better than we thought with the COVID and the uptick in absentee voting. Providing extensive training to the staff and election inspectors on these Badger books was pretty time consuming. But with COVID, it's been hard to do in-person training on that. The ease of these Badger books is proven itself by just being able to show them right on the spot how to use them, and they pick up on it right away. So Badger books are wonderful. We also worked with our HR staff to allow new election inspectors to be able to apply online. We've coordinated 3 elections so far. We're in the midst of coordinating our 4th and biggest election. The spring election contained the mayoral and 4 of our alders races, and the April election was also the largest spring election on record for the amount of absentee voting due to COVID. August was second behind that, and obviously I made this prior to the November election, but that's also going to exceed records in absentee voting as well. We worked with our city attorney and other staff to create a short-term rental application, an ordinance for that, and a procedure, as well as working with other staff and temporary expanded premise change application. This was due to COVID-19 to allow some of the businesses to expand their premise to allow for additional seating. Content management of the vault files is just about completed. That's been put on hold due to COVID and due to the extensive absentee voting requests that we've had. We're finding that this is a project that will probably never be completed because we're always generating electronic files and documents that need to be scanned in. So this will be an ongoing project moving forward, an ongoing task for one of our staff members moving forward. Some new initiatives for 2021, coordinating possible polling locations in addition after we have the redistricting and annexation of the town in Madison. We're probably going to need at least 1 more polling location, if not 2, moving forward for 2022. We have a spring primary and a February and April election next year. We have staggered terms now, so 4 of our alders will be up for election in February and April. And we're going to work on recruiting additional election inspectors to better staff our polling locations. We have a lot of snowbirds that leave in February and April, so those are the elections that we really have a hard time staffing for. So we really need to work on getting the word out more for those 2 elections. Continue to educate voters on using the MyVote website. I think a lot of people are realizing the ease of that. As far as requesting their absentee ballot, even tracking their ballot, uploading their photo ID, you do it once and it's there forever unless you move. And we're going to continue to work on with the finance and IT staff to try to establish an online payment for our pet licensing program. Documents online are capable of being stored in our on-base program, but we don't have a way to work out the online payment process. So that's kind of what's holding us back for people being able to submit their pet licenses online. Another incentive that we're looking at for 2021 is researching what's called the Modus Election Manager Program. This is a program that is utilized by some other municipalities and recommended to us. It'll help with scheduling and communicating election inspectors and chiefs, staffing them, providing training. They'll be able to sign up training on their own, be accountable for their own training. Right now, it's kind of a bulky system where we have to email each person their schedule and see what they're available for. So we're hoping with the research of this that that'll be able to help us out with that and cut down some hours and staffing on just trying to do this tedious task of just scheduling people to work the polls. Some budget changes we had for 2021, from 2020 to 2021. With the 4 elections, we had an increase in absentee balloting and for poll workers and election staff. For hours. For 2021, I've budgeted to return to those traditional levels. And we did have an increase paying our election inspectors from $8 to $10 and our chiefs from 10 to 12. This made us more compatible with our surrounding community. What is not included in the mayor's budget is the 2021 election year. We will have an alder race. This is staggered now every spring. With the increase in absentee voting and COVID, I'm looking to request an additional LTE staff help to cover some of that absentee ballot request work. In addition to having staggered terms now, voter turnout will be higher in our spring elections on odd number years than it ever has been in the past. Before, our mayor and alders were all elected together, but now that we've split the terms, we'll have a higher turnout every spring because of that. Any questions?
Any question for Tracy? So I have a question about this LTE. So how many hours?
So it would be combined 2 hours, 200 hours to cover.
Oh, here it is. Okay, yes, I see it. Okay.
Cover the February and the April combined.
Okay. Any other question for Tracy? Aaron.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, make another comment. I know there's been a few questions about some of the, like, interns and part-time positions, limited-term positions in a number of departments, and just more, seeing into the future and these positions that I've been talking about that we need. One of my ideas and one of the things that I'm going to recommend as a position in the next couple of years, with sooner the better, is almost like a city hall wide type of position that can help out a number of different departments. So it'd be the Tracy's team during elections. It can be the assessing team when they're doing the rolls and sending all that stuff out. I know that Sonia can use some help monthly, sending out those emails asking for feedback on projects. That's something that someone who with a little less, education and a little bit lower level can do instead of her very well-trained staff. I know that there's times that economic development can use help, especially when they're doing their annual luncheon, which unfortunately isn't happening this year. I think that we can very easily, Public Works always needs help, building inspection always needs help. All these departments need help throughout the year, and it is actually seasonal for a lot of these. And so that's kind of one of my ideas to help alleviate some pressure over a number of different departments at once, is to hire someone that can help out a number of different places.
The other thing, they are, like Madison College has a very good internship program. And, I use it a lot in my firm, in my department. They usually, it's part of the program where they are studying. So you need to pay them, of course, like a intern, but it's another place where, to consider, So, okay, any other question? No? Okay, thank you, Tracy. So we move to the next presentation, economic development. Mike is going to talk about the economic development budget, CEDA budget, and the affordable housing budget.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to chat with you about the CEDA budget. And some of the significant accomplishments, of course, were adjusted this year due to COVID, especially with our room tax revenue. We're projecting at least a 50% drop in the room tax revenue. So we're hunkered down here and looking at just kind of essential services in that whole category. Now we worked on the business boost programs, everything from the loan program for our businesses with your assistance, the temporary premise expansion, and then also wrote a lot of letters on behalf of our businesses for them to qualify for different grant programs and relief programs that are out there to help them kind of hopefully survive and eventually thrive once we get back into a full economic recovery going forward. One of the other big initiatives was launching the Housing Advisory Committee. And again, with your support, getting the Dane County Housing Authority resolution approved for them to be able to operate in Fitchburg. We were the only city in Dane County that did not provide that opportunity. So we're excited about that going forward and different partnerships that we can establish with them. We'll be winding down the Verona Road Business Coalition after a 7-year reconstruction project once they finish the rest of the work on McKee Road. And we'll be kind of dissolving that organization at the end of the year, although Cindy Yagi's activities for Fish Hatchery Road will continue throughout 2021 to help us to provide business assistance and coordination with that in 2021. Now as you can see, if you've driven down Fish Hatchery Road, we've got some exciting redevelopment, everything from the Highline Senior Apartments that have opened up to they're calling it Terrace Point is the new name for the apartments going up at the juice plant site there. And then, of course, the Park Bank redevelopment is started at the corner on North Fish Hatchery Road. So we're excited to see all of those go forward as we kind of transform what was the town of Fitchburg into the city of Fitchburg of today. And then finally, facilitated the TID 13 amendment, which we're hoping helps to generate additional development activity over on the east side of Fitchburg in our uptown neighborhood over there. And we've got some meetings coming up here to talk about some development activities and hopefully new proposals coming forward over there. As far as new initiatives in 2021, a lot of that will be kind of directed by what's the pace of the economic recovery and what type of assistance do our businesses need. One thing we're already focused on are some empty buildings that have become available, helping to find some new uses for those buildings that have been vacated. And it's a tale of two economies where we've got some businesses really struggling and just trying to survive and keep their heads above water. And then we have other businesses that are expanding at the seams and are needing additional space, especially kind of warehouse and distribution space. So we've been trying to match them up with real estate that's becoming available in the marketplace here. We'll continue to move forward with the Housing Advisory Committee activities. And one thing in particular, we'd like to, and you'll see the $10,000 line item in our budget for 2021, to have our H&A advisors look into a rent-to-own townhouse program, housing program, kind of in anticipation of those housing funds becoming available in like 2023 when we close TID 4 and TID 6 going forward there. So it would be helpful to kind of get that feasibility and economic analysis done. So when the money becomes available, we've got a program that we're ready to implement with hopefully a site identified to launch and move forward with the project. We're continuing to try and find additional development and keep that momentum going on North Fish Hatchery Road. In fact, I've got 2 Zoom meetings tomorrow with different developers, talking about different parcels on North Fish Hatchery Road to try and build upon the momentum that we've already got going in that corridor. And then we'll provide assistance working with Cindy Yagi for our businesses. Next year is going to be a little tricky at Hatchery Hill because as the road construction transitions down to them, the only way in and out of that area is really to the east on Fish Hatchery Road. So it's going to take a lot of coordination and communication to kind of keep the traffic flowing through that neighborhood. And then we've got continued development of Uptown and Orchard Point. I think you all know that we're hopefully going to have a new quick trip starting in 2021, which would open in 2022 at East Sherrill and South Saline Road. And then we're hoping that the Myers will close on their property. I'm talking about the quarry property now across from Super Target by the end of this year. And we'll proceed with their development to start the redevelopment of that entire quarry. And I'm already talking to possible other development that would take the additional 13 acres to the north of the Myers site that would co-locate with them in that particular area. And then finally, we need to find a new development partner for TID number 11. That's the one that was initially supposed to be the at Edge development between Highway 14 and Saline Road on the former, or the Cleanfill site over there. And the original developer, initial developer, that didn't go forward. We've got that out there to two more who may be looking at that property. So they're kind of in doing their due diligence on that property right now. We're hoping that maybe sometime early in 2021, we'll have a new developer identified to bring forward to talk about some concepts there. And then looking at significant budget changes from 2021 to 2020 to 2021. As I've indicated, we're already expecting at least a 50% drop in room tax revenues this year and have really whittled everything back to just essential services. We're not anticipating that to get any better in 2021. It seems like everything we're hearing from our tourism partners and the lodging establishments that are out there, that it's going to take a while for the hotel business to rebound, and we're probably looking at 2023 before there's a full recovery back to the 2019 revenues that we had. So it's going to be a while before we get back to hopefully to normal. So in the CETA budget, you can kind of see the essentials that I've identified, but then I worked closely with Misty's help to keep the previous commitments kind of identified in my budget. And so if the revenue somehow would magically reappear here and the recovery would be better than we expected, I would work with Misty to come back to you on a quarterly basis to maybe add some of those items back in, but that would all be revenue dependent on it. But you can still see those numbers in my line items for the 225 budget there. And then lastly is just that 10,000 in the Affordable Housing Fund. These are funds that have to be used for housing and affordable housing. And so we put a $10,000 line item in there to work with H&A consultants to look at that feasibility study for the rent-to-own program. I think that covers it. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. In the CETA budget for 21, you didn't put any amount for the business launching on. What happened if, by September next year, everything is fine?
Again, that would be a revenue contingent there. And so if in, let's say, the first and second quarter, the revenue is looking better, then we would come to you with a budget amendment, working with Misty to bring that one back. But it's all really contingent upon, are the dollars there and is the revenue there?
Okay.
And so just that PY, that stands for prior year. So you can see this example, it was $0 for the luncheon speaker, but last year was $3,000. So that's the preference. We still included those amounts for your information, but they're not technically budgeted.
And really appreciate Misty's help with kind of doing a stress test here to whittle us down to the essentials, and then trying to keep those other line items out there. So in future years, when we are able to do those things, we've got kind of that historical context there.
Okay, any other question for Mike? I don't have anyone on the chat. So, okay, thank you, Mike.
Everybody. Have a good night.
So next in our agenda is a presentation from the building inspection.
Has everybody got me?
Yes.
Okay, I can see you. I can see just one. I can see Julia, that's it. So we had the Terra Vista subdivision open with several houses, daycare center, the new elementary school in Oregon. We became a certified municipality in the commercial fire alarms and building inspection or building sprinkler systems, which that really means that we are kind of almost a one-stop shop, except for buildings that are over 5,000 square feet and remodels that are over 10,000. So it's really customer driven. So we can do all of those, and that sprinkler and fire alarm systems are not contingent on size, so we can help everybody out. That really helped. The state was like 12 to 16 weeks out. So we easily can, speed the process along. Like Mike says, all the projects he's got, well, we're hand in hand with them. So we're taking over them after he gets them here. We'll have well over 1,000 permits. As of today, we've got 867 permits right now that we're doing. And that's not even queued in the probably 10 or 12 houses that we just got from Viridian that's starting their new subdivision. And then we've got the two great big buildings for Promega going, and also the Sub-Zero R&D building. That facility is going to go ahead now. They're going to finish that project out, which is good for us. New initiatives for 2021, training for the commercial sprinkler and fire alarm systems. We need that. We need a shot in the arm, and I'll get into that further with some training. Start preparing for the town of Madison annexation. Everybody knows that is coming down the pipe, but I know there's certain departments that are going to have, I should say, it's going to be a little more difficult. As we start spreading these, that's what all you alders need to start thinking. We're spreading this city out. How long does it take for us to get from Target or the Myers site all the way over to town of Madison now? So it's just not, they're not 5-minute trips from this town hall or city hall. It's actually, 15, 20, 25 half hour just to get to one inspection, get to one police call, so everybody else is getting new things spread out with the fire department while we're still centrally located, but it's really not. So we got the Viridian subdivision, phase 2, and probably phase 3 of Terra Vista will come. Fahey Fields is going full bore, and the Meyer project hopefully will get started. That's the new initiatives for 2021. And then the significant budget changes. We had a $10,000 revenue because we can charge for the sprinkler and fire alarm systems to provide the money back that we've got. During the 2020 process, the quarter time position that they was fought for was eliminated. That money, of course, went to the golf course manager. I do understand that. And then reinforcement inspector, I'm gonna keep asking, and I'm just like everybody else. I made a fatal mistake. I should have kept my inspector on the times that was slow, because it seems like this was the third year now I'm asking for it, and it just keeps going away. So we do need another body here. Where you're going to start seeing is the property maintenance stuff, and getting the town of Madison it's going to be, the property maintenance is going to be the real difficult part. And it's just not, and I think I used the same analogy last year. This isn't just a vending machine where you can put somebody in and pick a building inspector out. We want somebody trained and ready to go when I retire. I'm not going to be here forever, as much as people think. I've been here 30 years. So I am leaving at some time here. I'm not announcing anything tonight, but we need to get, or the city would need to get a commercial inspector, a commercial plumbing inspector, and a commercial electrical inspector hired, or I need to train one of those two guys that I've got hired now. Both of them are in the process of taking the test and need that extra training. And that's why it was kind of crucial. We did earmark some out of state conferences for the sprinkler, and basically it was in Chicago, but it is out of state technically, and that $5,000 got taken out. Well, I guess I would have known on the front end that would have got taken out. I would have found some stuff in Milwaukee. City of Madison or the UW-Madison system is way too expensive. They want $1,400, $1,500, $1,600. We would have found some more training. I need to get my two guys trained and also myself on the sprinkler and alarm system. You know, if you're adding a $10,000 revenue and they take $5,000 away, that's a net. I'm not a real good accountant, but that's a net $15,000 loss to my department. So that was a little disappointing. I knew I put the position there. I knew I wasn't going to get it in this time. There's only so much pie. I'm a realist. So I knew I was going to get it, but as long as I'm the department head, I'll keep asking for it over and over and over. That's really kind of the highlights. I mean, we're busy. As of right now, today, we did 141 new families. That's what we got going. And 27 of those are duplexes. We've got 6 multifamily projects going. Of course, we've got the 3 large projects going with Promega and Sub-Zero. And our revenue as of right now for all total fees collected, and that includes this number includes the impact fees for water and fire department is 1.2 million, almost 1.3. Building inspection fees are $605,000. I don't know if what we projected at. I was thinking it was about somebody maybe can answer that. I thought it was like 400,000 or 350. So we're already over that. So for us to lose $5,000 in education, I guess was my budget's always been lean. My budget hasn't changed probably for the last 10 years. And to lose that, because once you lose it, you never get it back. I know that's kind of blunt to say, but that's just the way it is. So I'm kind of hoping I can get that back, but I do understand we've got in excess of $500. So I'm a realist. But I guess I'm open for questions. We're busy. We'll always be busy. I think 2021 is going to be extremely busy. COVID is not affecting us, not affecting contractors. So I think I put in the budget 1,100 permits. I think we'll probably be closer to 1,200 permits this year.
Thank you, John. I want to ask, a question maybe to the mayor. So because, with the annexation of the town of Madison, I want to be sure that one of the positions that the mayor is planning to, he's talking about that we need to hire in the future, is this one is going to be one of them?
Yeah, I think at least a 50% position. And I think one of the things that I need to talk to John about is it kind of like I talked about sharing the other position between departments. I don't know that's as possible with building inspections. You have to have some specialized training, but if there is some possibility of a full-time position that is half building inspection, have something else, that might be a nice thing to do. But I think that at least a 50% building inspection position is needed.
Yeah, it's, you're with all that license, and I mean, you just can't do the job unless you're certified. So it's kind of a catch-22. I can't hire, I'm not like assessing. I can't hire an intern. I might go another avenue. If I can talk Dina into staying, maybe get a permit tech, and it would free me doing up some of the stuff where I can actually get more into the field. But as of right now, flat out, I'm spending 85% of my time in-house because I don't even want to show you my office. It's embarrassing with stuff stacked up here. So it just is what it is. I mean, we're back to that pre-2008 time.
Yeah, I can imagine because we are growing and I know that our growth sometimes is not sustained with the personal growth to maintain the growth. And one of the concerns could be in the future is we are going to start burning out our employees and, and people start leaving because they're burned out. So, so my other question is, do you know, John, how many new, with the town of Madison, how many new, houses or commercial we are going to get?
I really don't know that, but I know in behind there is going to be, and I'm sure Chad Breckman will be will understand it, that whole area back there is a lot of multifamily. It kind of reminds me of the Ridgewood days, back when we had troubles with it. Yeah, they had a contractor come in there and reset and put a few windows on, but that's just, excuse my French, but it's like putting lipstick on a pig. It didn't solve the problem. So, and now we've got these low income ones. We've got 7 or 8 buildings, I think 7 with the clubhouse, more low income that are stacked on top of each other, and they're brand new, but it also brings other difficulties, other things that, that we will be involved in.
Are we getting any neighborhood like residential?
Well, I don't think we're getting much as far as single family, very, very little. We're getting most of that multifamily, and we're getting, of course, the businesses along Rimrock Road. I don't think we go on the other side except for what we have in Madison. I haven't seen the exact map, but if we get it, it's just a handful of,
So we are going to have that because the council is going to have a committee of the whole meeting in January. Can we have all this number by that time?
From me?
Yeah, I don't know, from someone. I would like to know.
I guess we can get the map. I don't know how much time I got, but we can get somebody out there and give you a rough number of the map and what we have. Sure, we can try for you.
Okay, so Aaron.
I was just gonna say, I believe a year or two ago, the estimate was we're gonna get 12 single-family homes and over 600 apartments in the town of Madison.
Along with the commercial stuff along Rim, and that stuff that's I don't want to say easy, but that with the remodels and stuff, that's why we're certified now, so we can handle all that. And I also want to say that with that continuing education, I hold 7 certification. Now I hold an 8th one with the sprinkler and fire alarm cert. And then also, my guys hold 6 apiece. So, I mean, we got continuing education upon continuing education. I try doing it as economically as possible. I try doing it with the associations. Of course, we got cut out with our March updates, but I'm, really active with them. So we try to do it as inexpensive as possible, yet get the most bang out of our buck. But it's hard finding sprinkler alarms or sprinklers in the alarm system. So that's why if we can't go out of state, I wish I could have found something in state, I guess.
But the other thing I want to mention, I know that there are a lot of, event or these classic courses that they are now online, and people don't need even to travel. You can do your, I am having plenty of those now. You can do it online. So maybe something that even because we don't travel outside, to other states, but it doesn't mean that we can continue having the training because the training now is online. So, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and that's something we'll look at, when, everybody thinks it slows down the winter for us. It does a little bit, but not really. So the problem is getting a 4-hour block put away, sometimes it's hard to do with all the inspections coming in, but we can just do it. We'll put it this way. I've always been a team player with the city. We'll do what we have to do to push the rock up the hill and keep everybody safe. That's my job. I got 27,000 plus souls to keep safe, and that's what we do.
Okay, thank you. So I have another question for you from Gabriela.
Yeah, I guess you partially answered. My question was centered around the education fund, and I understand that we removed out-of-state conferences for a very good reason because of the pandemic. But based on what you said, I am interested in looking at what we might be able to do to make sure that your staff is getting the training that they need to make sure they're up to date. If I assume, was that line item, was that separated into like hotel and flight and then conference fees?
I think it was just, I think we put the conference fees. I think I just put, $2,000 League of Municipality 3, miscellaneous staff training was due. National Fire Protection Association, that was a conference that we go to, and International Association of Electrical Inspectors, that was 3 people. Sometimes we just earmark those. The iWork training, I did put 2 people out to send them to Utah last year. That is our computer software, excellent computer software. They came back in and it works much better. And I had 1 more inspector that I was going to send out there to get up on that. But that's what it is. So I just kind of earmarked associations that we had pamphlets and flyers from. I didn't break down, the flights, all that stuff yet. And we just kind of, if I got $1,000, I work it in. That's kind of what we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other question? Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's a tough job you guys got to do. So good luck.
Yeah. So next presentation is Parks and Recreation. So we are going to review the parks budget, the recreation budget, parks fee budget, and the cemetery budget. Okay, Scott?
Good evening, everyone. I guess I'd like to start out on page 223 and just draw your attention to an organizational change for 2021. It's noted on the bottom with, parent A, which is the event supervisor. And this is a position that when Chad and the rec department rents the community center, in the past, what we used to do is just give them the renter a key and then they came in. But now what we do is we have a supervisor who is there that welcomes them, shows them where they need to go, and is there to assist them if they have any questions, those kinds of things, and then secures the building when they're done. So what they've done now is we've actually moved that position into the Park and Rec department, and they'll work hand in hand. Chad puts together the schedule for these event supervisors. So I just wanted to call your attention to that. And then if you go to the next page, 224, under departmental statistics, there is a note there too. I know it looks like we're projecting the same amount of revenue from the rec department in 221 as we had in 2019. Certainly in 2020, COVID put a damper on that. And I guess the note that I wanted to draw your attention to was if those revenues aren't met, it looks like we need to try and figure out some expenditure reductions to try and offset that loss of revenues. I will tell you that since the middle of March, when COVID went into effect, Chad and Austin have been out in the parks since then, and really, and I guess I'll kind of roll into the accomplishments for 2020. I kind of like to summarize those in new amenities and maintenance. We did have new playgrounds at S. Johnson and Terra Vesa. We also had the construction of an open air changing room at the splash pad. We've got scheduled maintenance of the parking lot at McKee adjacent to Kids Crossing, along with an additional parking lot to the west of the current parking lot at the splash pad. We've also have scheduled to put a new roof on the Wildwood shelter, Wildwood Park shelter. And the work that Chad and Austin have been able to do is, I don't know if you've noticed, but we're in the process of renovating our park ID signs. We're getting new paint on them, and then actually we're going to be inserting the new city logo in there. So we're, that's one of the projects that we've been having in our operating budget, but we haven't been successful in having it in there. So they've been working on that. They also, for the first time, we were able to paint all of our picnic tables out in the park system, which is about 200 of those. We also were able to pressure wash all of our shelters and some playground equipment, which is the first time that we've really been able to, make a conscious effort in doing that this last summer, which is really nice. Some other accomplishments, park planning. We have the Terra Vesa Park, which we're working on, and also the Fahey Fields. park development, which you all had a little bit of a chance to take a look at one of the previous council meetings. We are doing woods management, a pretty extensive wood management at S. Johnson, where we removed all the invasive honeysuckle and buckthorn and that such. So those are kind of the significant accomplishments. New initiatives for 2021, continue the development of the Fahey Fields Park Plan. We'll be coming back shortly here with maybe a plan 2 on try to get that constructed. Also, if all goes well with the budget approval, the Nine Springs Hub north of Traceway for sure. Phase 1 is going to be a big construction project in 2021, and then our community gardens continue to expand, and a couple other minor replacements and those kinds of things within the park system. Significant budget changes in 226. There was $25,000 removed from the forestry budget for tree planting. And what's really helpful is we're still, doing our emerald ash borer mitigation plan, which is at some point all the ash trees will be removed. We are treating some now to kind of, have them stay around until we're able to get them removed. But that was taken. We did increase the median maintenance, fish hatchery, McKee, roundabouts, both landscape and mowing. We contract that out, and we did increase that from 50 to 70,000. New positions that we did propose that were not included are a full-time park maintenance worker, along with the reinstatement of the park and forestry assistant, which would be pretty much a summer LTE position. And with that, I would certainly entertain any questions that you may have.
Any question? I have a question, Gabriela.
Hi, Scott. I was curious if you could talk a little bit more about the $25,000 that was earmarked for replacing those ash trees that are going to be removed. And is there any way we can generate revenue to help support that type of project? I know we don't have a Friends of the Park organization or anything of that nature, but I was curious if you knew of any sort of revenue generating opportunities that could help fill in the gap for that project, because that does occur to me as a real issue, in my opinion.
I would agree, Gabriela, but I will tell you that there still remains, tree dollars for tree replacement in the budget. So we are still going to be planting some trees. In regards to, revenue programs or it's basically, soliciting donations for trees, I guess would be the only thing that I can think of. We did receive urban forestry grant dollars for implementation of the emerald ash borer mitigation plan and those kinds of things. That could potentially be a source for dollars, but you need dollars to match those, and they're typically 50-50 match. There is, and maybe Misty, you can help me on this. There was a while back, I know last year we were fully funded, but the year prior to that, it was removed, and there was a CIP project 6221, I believe, that there still may be a little bit of a balance in there, so we could still do some ash tree replacements. I'd have to double check on that. But it's times are limited. It's not. Certainly we'd like to replace those trees, especially when the property owner. What's really nice, and Anna does a nice job of it. She even she even plants at times prior to the removal of the ash tree, which is really nice for the resident if you're removing a tree to get it replaced right away. And we'll do the best that we can to try and do that, but we're just $25,000 short. And typically the trees are about maybe $300 or so. So that might be 75 trees or so that we're not able to plant. Although we, like I say, there is, some other dollars in that other CIP account, if I recall, that we can try and subsidize that effort.
And this is maybe a question for you, maybe for Misty, but I'm curious about vegetation as a strategy for stormwater management and how does parks and stormwater collaborate in terms of thinking through vegetation management? And I'm curious also about the funding structure for that, because obviously stormwater has its own utility fee, but I don't know how vegetation connects to those considerations.
And that's a good question, Gabrielle. And we've really been improving that communication, that relationship. Typically within the park system, we have some tall grass and prairie type areas that typically have the same type of maintenance activity that a stormwater facility has. They are different facilities, and they're managed by the two different divisions, but there may be, burning that's done in the different facilities. We, I think, kind of share contractors. What we do, or what Anna does, is she contracts with, contractors that'll come in and remove the invasives and spray them and a couple $100 a time just to, maintain the tall grass and prairie areas that we have. I know, Claudia, they just recently did an inventory of all the stormwater facilities. And I think included in that inventory was potential maintenance opportunities, and certainly some of them stormwater facilities. A lot of them are in parks, and then they might roll into a tall grass area and those kinds of things. So there might be some efficiencies that if I review through that, there might be a contractor who comes in and does the stormwater, and then they could maybe just, for example, burn park. They're doing their stormwater facility, but we have a couple acres of tall grass, and there's going to be a maintenance contract for that stormwater facility. So the idea of, hey, do you mind kind of going over and doing the park portion of it too? We do have dollars allocated in our budget, and it's kind of increased annually here. I think we're up to $18,000, and that would be in 290 in the park, the contractual services, prairie longgrass burn maintenance. That's gone up steadily, and I tell you that 18,000, it goes a long way. When you're doing $750 or $800 a time, and we just don't have the. We can go in there and rough mow the whole thing once or twice, but then to get rid of the invasives, you have to have someone go in and remove them by hand and spray and those kinds of things. Yeah. That's kind of a long-winded answer. But.
No, that was helpful. But I'm also curious, and you might not know this, Scott, but maybe I'll have to do some more research. But can stormwater utility fees ever be used for vegetation management if it has a stormwater impact?
Boy, that might be a stretch, but I'm willing to. That sounds good to me, but I'm not really the one that is able to make that determination. Certainly.
Gabrielle, this is Pat. I think Bill would probably be able to answer that question when we get to Public Works, because.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'll save that question for Bill then. Thanks, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks. That's all for now.
I have a question, Scott. I have seen in several departments under new initiative that they are preparing for the town of Madison annexation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anything here in your new initiative, and I imagine that we are gonna get some parks and more medians to mow and all of that. So this is a comment, okay? So to think about.
Well, and actually, Julia, it was a couple years back. I believe Mr. Marsh asked for each department to put together a report, and we went out and inventoried the property and
okay.
And kind of give. So there is you know, there is some information that was put together a couple years back that kind of indicates that, and that's right. You know, it's just like everything else. It's you know, the more parks and, well, the more medians, the more paths, the more, you know, the more everything that you've and you know, I might call your attention. I did include in my brief justification for the new park maintenance position. In 2010, we had 527 acres, and we have 729 today. And you know, our staff is basically stayed the same. You know, and that's just like everybody else. You know, as we continue to grow, it's, you know, the grass still needs to be mowed, and the paths still need to be plowed, and the trees still need to be maintained. So it's, you know, the guys do a heck of a job, but at some point it's, you know, you're going to have 5 snow removal routes and only 4 guys to do it, and it just takes more time, kind of thing.
So this question is for the mayor. Aaron, are you considering the same question that I asked before when you talk about the new position that you're planning to, you know, to fund next year or in 2 years? I don't know. Are one of the park position in mind?
I don't remember if it's specifically parks, but certainly parks and public works between those two. And I know they share staff a little bit, but they certainly need probably a couple positions, frankly, between the two. And so it's just kind of working with staff to figure out, is it one of each? Is it, you know, this position is actually working for both of them, and this position is for public works. But parks and public works, you know, is coming up next. Both of those will certainly need more people. We talk about, I think, you know, initial areas to mow and parks to maintain. For public works, it's also streets to plow, streets to maintain and fix and do upkeep on, and do sewer and water, all that stuff. All the infrastructure is old in this town of Madison, and they're not putting any money into it, which is really frustrating for us.
And maybe just a clarification that Mayor, currently we've got 4 park maintenance staff, and then there is that one shared position where they plow during the winter, and then they work in the parks during the summer. So we do have one position currently that is kind of shared between the 2 departments.
Yeah, so it could be a position like that even.
Okay. Any other question for Scott? No? Okay. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. So next, oh, we can move. Okay. So this one is the longest one. Okay. Okay. So this one is a presentation from Public Works, and we are going to look at Public Works budget, mass transit budget, building and grounds budget, refuse and recycling budget, water utility budget, and sewer budget. So, and a stormwater utility budget. Okay. So Bill, are you ready?
Sure.
So Bill, how you're gonna talk about each of these sections, or you're gonna talk in general?
No, I'll go through each of the sections so we
Okay.
can stop and you can ask questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So our Public Works Engineering Department, we did oversee several developments this past year for Bay Fields, Terra Vesta, North Park, Crescent Crossing, and then there's several that are in the design phases right now: Stoner Prairie, Crescent Crossing Phase 2, and then Terra Vesta first edition is coming in too. So a lot of development still happening in the city. We did a lot of capital improvement projects ongoing. Trace Fish Hatchery Road is underway, McKee Road, Central Park Place, Green Market Drive. Did the extension of Fayette Glen, finished that up this year. And then along with the roundabout at East Sherrill, the Commerce Park Drive extension, and traffic signal improvements to Lacey and MM. We completed several major road projects or patches with our new paver this year out on Sain Road, 8 Farm Road, and Fitchburg Road. And we're primarily looking at those projects where we are we're trying to extend the road life out there 8 to 10 years before reconstruction. So hopefully those patches will hold up over the next 8 years or so on those roads before we have to get out there and do the reconstruction. We started the design for Sain Road, also the intersection of McCoy and MM. We received a grant for that project. We were able to have the DOT fund that, most of the project, construction for that. And then in 2021, one of the department areas that we're changing over is changing our street permit system to a GIS application for public tracking. So we haven't rolled it out public yet, but we've kind of got a beta version going internally with some groups of utilities where you're able to submit your permits online and track them through to completion. So it'll have a dot for red, it's like under review, orange is paid but not started, and green is under construction. And the public will be able to see that and say, oh, I got a project out in front of my yard. Now this is what it is, and we'll have all the information on that. We're working with the finance department too, to make sure that we take care of their processes. So when a contractor comes in to pay their permits, they're able to access this information as well and be able to process and take the fees for those. So that's one of the initiatives that we're working on. We're also looking at getting an objective view of our pavements. Right now, we use a rating scale that's kind of subjective. You go out and look at the road and say, well, it's got, some cracks on it. It's rated as a 5 or an 8 or whatever it is. And depending on your rater and who thinks, the road is great or not, those numbers can change. So the street condition rating, we do have it in the budget this year and partially in next year to objectively go through and scan all of the roads in Fitchburg to let us know how many cracks, what the pavement condition is, and the data that they're also going to be collecting but not reporting on will be things like street signs and pavement markings, culverts. The information will be there, and then as funding becomes available, we can have them run the report to strip the data out of the scans that they did so that we can have that information as well. We did have in the budget for next year with the scanning to do the road signs, the culverts, and the pavement marking, but we reduced that down to just the pavement marking. So we had $25,000 in the budget for next year to do everything, and we reduced that down to $15,000 to capture the pavement markings. We also will be doing a lot more of the road patching and paving out on our rural streets and areas that have some cracks and potholes that are significant, so that we can just try to limp them along until the resurfacing budget can accommodate those projects. Significant changes. Can you roll back up just a little bit, Misty? For the, down to financial summary there. The Public Works summary, personnel costs. There is a staff person that's partially funded by the general fund in this budget as proposed. Our contractual services went up just a little bit, operating expenses some. Overall, as you can see, mostly it's the personnel costs that have increased with that. So the significant budget changes from 20 to 21 is the new staffing proposal number 7, which includes a Public Works field employee. which is allocated at 67% stormwater and 33% highway. The reason it's split out this way is that for our stormwater permit, we have to sweep the streets once a month. Sometimes in other areas, it's once a week. We have not been able to meet that for our permits, so we're not in compliance with our permit. So having this employee, we did have it in the capital improvement plan to purchase another street sweeper for next year. And so this will help us be in compliance with the permit, as well as catch up on a lot of our maintenance around the area for stormwater. The number of catch basins that have potholes by them, the pipes that need to get cleaned, the ponds that need to get repaired and dredged out and things like that, the vegetation maintenance, et cetera. So that's mainly funded through the stormwater, and the 33% for highway includes the staffing proposal for plowing the additional streets that we've overtaken, such as Fish Hatchery Road. We're adding another 10 lane miles just on Fish Hatchery Road. McKee Road, which we took over from the county a couple of years ago, that area was close to 14 lane miles that we took over for that, for plowing. Plus we've got all of New Terra Vesta, all the subdivisions that we've mentioned. It's just a lot to take over. And so either they're going to see a decrease in service if we don't fund the position, or yeah, I guess that's what we would have to result to, is it would just take longer to get things done. So we're out to give a good service for plowing snow and street maintenance. So we'd appreciate it if this would get approved for Public Works. The town of Madison is also a consideration coming up. And that's something that's going to be coming up in the next 2 years for the additional services in that area too. We did remove the out-of-state conferences for 1 year due to COVID. The education events was reduced slightly. We still kept it at a level for our engineers to maintain our professional engineering licenses and the professional development for those. And the transit system, we did keep the same level of budget for 2021 as we did in 2020. And the budget number that I got from Madison today indicated that there was going to be a service decrease of about 20% of the hours in 2021. They did reduce 2 of the routes. One of them was coming from the Capitol down to, or it was Route 47 and Route 19. Those 2 routes were eliminated during COVID and will continue to not be serviced in 2021. So they did indicate to me today that they were going to increase their COVID funding to cover the cost difference that we had in 2020 and 21. So we'll have the service that we have this year into next year as well. So that's Public Works, streets, and transit.
Can I ask a question before you move to the next one? Bill, okay, so you mentioned that there are 2 routes that they're going to be eliminated in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Can you send an email to the alders about this information? And are you planning how we are going to, do you know how many people are going to be affected?
When COVID started, they stopped the routes automatically. So I'll get those. Yes, I'll get that information to you.
Yeah, because I think we need to inform the people that are using those, or in the past, and maybe they think that they're planning to come back those services. But I'm curious to see, So what are those routes that we are eliminating and which part of the city are being affected?
Right. I was trying to find those maps while others were presenting their budgets this evening, and they've already taken them off their route system. So I can't find a map that showed it. But if I recall, Route 19 comes from the capital area down Verona Road, loops around into the Allied neighborhood in that area there by yeah, it comes down to Allied and kind of loops around and goes back into the capital again. And then the Route 47 is one that is like Greenway Cross, Post Road, up to the capital. And then it comes and hooks around Pick and Save, and then heads back up to the capital again.
Okay, so if those one are the routes, I am very concerned.
Yes.
Because these are the people that they need it the most.
I think they said they felt that they had duplication of the routes. And so there is another route that covers those. But I think that was one of the reasons that they had behind that.
Yeah, I would like to, if you can find the information and send it to us to be sure that they are not eliminating services in areas where we really need it. And if they have duplicated, which one are those?
Okay.
Because I will say that for the ALDER on those districts is because one is in my district. So if I need to, communicate to the people, or how we're gonna, inform that too is critical too.
Yes. And then the proposed position that we had is outlined in the packet with the costs, as I had mentioned, that it's split between between the stormwater utility and the public works or the general.
Bill, since I'm running the screen, next you're going to refuse and recycling.
Okay.
Wait a second. Any question regarding this section?
From me, yes.
Dorothy.
I was just going to say on the Route 18 and 19, the routes that run through Allied, yes, there are two different bus routes that run through the area here, but they go off totally different directions. So you can say, well, you can pick up a bus, but the service is entirely different. The 19 runs directly downtown for people who work downtown or need to access downtown. I think the 18 goes up to the west transfer point, whatever. They're really different routes, even though we can say, yes, there is another bus. I would also be concerned.
Any other question regarding this section?
Just co-signing what Dorothy said. I live right there next to those routes, so I agree 100%.
Okay, so Bill, you're gonna keep it posted about this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So next we move to the next section.
Refuse and recycling. Significant accomplishments in 2020 is that we selected Pelletary Systems to be the solid waste service for the city for 2020 to 2024. We updated the recycling guide to include key pieces of information in Spanish, and developed a compost plan for composting operations at the Public Works Maintenance Facility. Next year, we're going to be increasing our education and outreach website updates, as far as refuse and recycling goes. The significant budget changes from 20 to 21 is that our solid waste charge fees increased from $203 to $209 per unit. That's a 3% increase. The brush charge for the apartment complexes that elect to have brush picked up from the city increased from $6.25 per unit to $6.40 per unit. And other contractual services, the pickup costs for solid waste brush increased for a contract specified increase for 20 to 21. The increase to the recycling drop-off site increased as well for some of the operations from $15,000 to $20,000 for the grinding budget, where we grind up the brush and yard waste into compost. There is a large cost increase due to the cost to dispose of oil filters, tires, and that was previously at $2,500, and those total increased to $4,800, $4,850. The increase in the use of cardboard containers due to COVID, we are proposing to add in some additional containers to the drop-off site, which would cost about $9,700 per year. The drop-off site maintenance and improvements increased from $13,400 to $21,600. Due to the bulk compost, we were looking to get a screener in the range of $35,000. We are going to use a portion of the 2020 funds to be rolled over into 21 to pay for that increase.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, when we need to have two, we need to, I don't know, you lease, I imagine that we lease this recycling drop-off. I use this recycling a lot, and I have seen that is getting, most of the time everything is full. My question to you is, last year it was in 2019 when we approved the new contract with Pelletieri. We didn't consider to add in this additional cost there to pass through. Why the city had to pay for this fee when it's the people using? Why is not a pass-through cost?
We had in the contract a certain number of dumpsters and pickups per year.
Yeah.
That they had due to COVID. A lot more people are getting a lot of packages through the mail, and as you said, that it's overflowing.
Yeah.
So one of the solutions that we have to that is to add those dumpsters, and it's in our contract as to how much it costs per dumpster if we wanted to do additional ones. And that cost ended up totaling about $9,700 to do that for 2021.
So that one is a cost that the city is going to absorb. We are not going to pass through.
No, it's going to be a pass-through with the rate increase that we have proposed. The residents are going to pick up that cost.
Okay.
The only thing I'd like to add on this one, if I may, Bill, is there'll be a separate resolution coming through, including the council, that will actually set that refuse charge at the 209. So that's staff's recommendation based on the budget that's in front of you. But you'll have to actually pass a resolution to set that fee.
So for the $209, that one is for 2021, isn't it?
Correct.
Yes.
So it's going to be I want to understand, because last year when we revised the contract and we signed a new contract, we increased it a lot from 1 year, you know what I mean? So it went from 162 to a $203, isn't it?
So the annual
Yes.
charge per unit is right here.
Yeah. Okay. So we are gonna do like an amendment to the contract to increase the fee, something like that?
It would be an additional service that we would add onto the contract, yes.
Oh, additional service, okay. Well, we had to amend the contract, yeah. Okay. So when is this is gonna come? At the end of the year? This resolution?
It would be just before the budget is passed. Is it on the 10th?
Yeah, so I'll have an omnibus amendment in there without an amount in case the resolution is approved at something different than what's in here right now. And then assuming if it's not, then it'll be a $0 amount. And if it is different, we'll make that adjustment as we go. Generally, we like to do it a meeting earlier, but frankly, we ran out of time.
So and then when we send the real estate bill in December, they are gonna see that change.
Correct. The bottom right corner of the property tax bill where the special assessments and special charges are, that's where that tax bill or garbage charge is. So that would be on there.
Okay. And with how do you determine to move to 209? Do you see that you're covering all the costs, additional costs that we are gonna have with that new fee?
Yeah. Do you want to take that one, Bill?
Yeah, we project out what the expenses will be for 2021. And then we adjust the revenue to a point that meets that or uses some of the reserve fund. And we've got a spreadsheet that, goes from 0 to, $20 as far as an increase goes. So we've got different rates that would match that amount. So the $209 that was selected there would cover the expenses plus some of the reserve that we have would offset, so that would cover the expenses.
So I imagine when you bring forward that resolution, you're gonna bring that spreadsheet so we can see how you come up with the calculation and, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
There was also a discussion about this at the last RCC meeting. There's some information in the agenda packet for RCC.
For when?
From the September 24th meeting, I think, we had a discussion about this $209 rate increase. And there's some information in the agenda packet from Claudia, which I assume will be included in the council. But if anyone's looking to get some information in advance, I believe that it's in the agenda packet for that committee.
Okay. Thank you. Gabriela, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious about in terms of the total budget for recycling and refuse, is this entirely funded by the solid waste fee? Or is there also like revenue from the property tax levy or any other source?
We do have a grant from the state for recycling. That's part of the revenue. It's about, I think it was $105,000 we budgeted for that. But it's mainly funded by the revenues generated by the fees, yes.
There's no property taxes though.
Got it. Thank you.
I have another question. What is this thing about the new screener? What is that, the screener? I want to understand. I don't get it. And so so this screener is part of this $209 or is it separate? Is, you know what I mean?
Right. It's part of the $209.
Okay.
Did you have questions about the screening operation or?
No, what is an screener? I don't know.
Okay. So when we've got the brush and the yard waste, we throw it into a big grinder.
Oh,
it comes out and it's pretty coarse.
Okay.
And then what we do is we take it, we run it through there again, it makes it a little bit finer. What the screener does that we rent currently is it really makes it a fine material so that we can spread it on our parks. It doesn't,
Oh, okay.
it takes out a lot of the big sticks and the big clumps of things so that it's easier to spread in the parks and things like that.
So this one is a new screener?
It would be a new screener. We're currently renting those right now, once or twice a year to sift the material.
And how much it costs to rent those?
Typically in the $4,000 to $5,000 each. Depends on how long we have it for.
5,000 each time.
Yes.
And you,
So it would pay for itself within a couple of years.
okay, so this, and this one was in the CIP or where it was that?
I think it should have been in the CIP. We had it in the operating budget. I think it's going back into CIP.
It should have been in CIP and it wasn't. So it's coming forward and it's pointed out here specifically for you.
But it's not gonna be paid with tax
Not with
levy.
property taxes. It's fully funded by that garbage charge.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Any other question for this section? Okay, so let's move to the next one, Bill.
So Bill, now I'm moving to the water and sewer utility.
All right, for the water utility, we selected a consultant for Tower D, Well 10, and the Camp Badger Reservoir improvements, and began the design for those. Well, we acquired the land for Tower F and Well 12, as well as completed the final section of the Woods Hollow Interceptor up and down Fahey Fields, or Fahey Glen. We removed the King James Booster Station, designed and installed water main in McGaw Park and the Northeast Water Main. Well, we haven't installed them yet. They're starting next week. And then the Lacey Road Sanitary Sewer Extension. Completed the utility replacements, relocations for major corridors, including Fish Hatchery Road, Corona Road, McKee Road. Reviewed plans for the installation of utilities along Platts and CSMs for the first edition of Terra Vesta, Fahey Fields Phase 4, Crescent Crossing, second edition of Stoner Prairie, Commerce Park Drive, first edition of North Park, Fahey Glen Extension. Then we also implemented a chemical treatment system to Well 10 and began the water main extension replacement designs for South Saline Road, the Greenfield Water Main Extension, and the McKee Road projects for 2021. We assisted the fire station with the implementation of their solar installation and the police evidence roof replacement. Started the overall GIS water system where our technician is entering the information accurately into the system. For 2021, we're looking to complete the design and begin the construction on the projects under design right now for Tower D, Well 10, Camp Badger Reservoir. Complete the design and construct the water main extensions along South Saline Road from North Park to Greenfield area and the McCoy Interceptor. We're going to be completing the Northeast Water Main loop and constructing the replacement relocations of major corridors, including the Fish Hatchery Road, McKee Road projects. The Fish Hatchery Road sewer lining project will get underway next year, and we're going to pull well 5 and 10 to do our maintenance on those wells. The review, we continue the review of plans and construction within the Platts and CSMs as they come in, and we have to do a EPA water emergency response plan that's required by the DNR for our water system. We have to complete and implement we are going to be selecting and implementing a customer portal billing water usage system, and looking at the potential upgrades to our current SCADA system for the new system. We're going to continue to overhaul our water system. The portal, I don't know if you're familiar with it. Our current water meter system that was installed over the past few years allows us to get alarms when customers have high water usage. So for instance, like somebody's toilet might be stuck. We'll get an alarm at the city saying there's a continuous water usage in your house. And we will notify the residents of that. Hey, you might want to check your water in the house. And that's the way our current system works. What this portal will do is allow the customer to have access to that information and set up alarms as well. So you'll get an email or a text or an automated voice message saying that it exceeds the parameters that you set for your house, or you're getting close to those parameters. If you wanted to only use 100 gallons a day and you're getting close to that, you could set it up that you'll get a message saying, hey, you're getting close to 100 gallons a day. Or if it runs continuously for 4 hours, you'll get a text message saying something's going on. So that's the kind of system that we're looking to implement for our customers to be able to take ownership of their own water systems for conservation and for leak detection. That's good. Our significant changes from 20 to 21. We decreased the area for the structures and improvements by 6,000. We don't have any special projects going on. We decreased the maintenance of the reservoir and towers because we didn't have a cleaning scheduled. We increased our computer-related expenses for the portal system that we had mentioned. The miscellaneous general repairs, we increased the well abandonment rates to $5,000. And the maintenance of collection systems, we added the sewer lining repairs for $20,000.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Oh, Randy, you're next. So in page 262, under the water admin and general expenses, I am curious, in the fund 245, there is a $20,000 customer portal. So what does it mean that? Which customer, residential or commercial? What does it mean that? Is something new this?
Which one is this?
The 20,000.
Yeah, that was the customer portal that we were just discussing about the water system.
Oh, that one. Okay. You call it customer portal. Okay. I thought it was like when you go to the website and you put your name and you can see your bills are paid and I don't know.
Right. Yeah, this is where you can monitor your water usage.
Okay. And the other thing in 325, training and staff development, you have $6,000 still in training. So this training is like in-state training, or because I saw in other department that they reduce the training budget. So
yeah, we don't have any out-of-state budget, any training out of state. It's all in-state. And this is for our water staff. They have to maintain their certifications, just like the building inspections. So it's all
their
in-state.
certification. Okay. Thank you. Randy.
My question goes back to the GIS. What are you using currently? Is there a system, or are you using paper records? You referenced the water.
Yeah, we've got a program called iWorks right now that we're converting over to the GIS water or the GIS system. It's just more efficient to use the GIS than the iWorks that we have for the water system. So we've been taking data and transferring it over to the GIS. That's part of what we've been doing.
Are you doing that yourselves in-house, or do you do a conversion outside where you send everything out and it comes back converted? I'm just curious if there's a cost, or since maybe you're doing it all in-house.
It's all in-house. Our water staff and technician is doing that when they have time over the winter.
Okay, and is this going to be based on earlier conversations we had? You referenced permitting and so forth. It sounds like the system is very all-inclusive. I mean, is this taken beyond that as well as a storm sewer, sewers themselves? I mean, all infrastructure within the city eventually? Or could?
Yeah, it is. It needs some updating. Each department is kind of responsible for their own areas. You know, stormwater does stormwater, and water and sewer do their own areas to keep those updated. So each one is doing their own section currently.
Okay, and I'm guessing they're all keeping up. Otherwise, I mean, it doesn't have any value. Does it go above and beyond the city infrastructure? I mean, a road project can come along and you do it. Does it also identify all of the other utilities that may be out there, MGD or AT&T or Spectrum, or you're not at that level yet?
No, they really don't share their data with us as far as their GIS, and so it doesn't go to that level. No.
Okay, all right. I mean, it can, but I just curious if the city of Fitchburg. Okay, thank you.
And I need to ask a question to Mr. I forgot to ask, and I have seen in all of this head of department. Now that I have seen more, I can ask a question. I have seen like a lot of increase in the personnel cost. So what are those costs being driven by? You know what I mean? Like what are behind that? Is it like
Yep, so those were mostly talked about during the HR budget yesterday. So there's the 2% COLA for non-represented staff. Union contracts have increases included in them for 2021. The health insurance rates increased pretty significantly, so that's included in there.
how much was the health insurance increase?
So I believe it was 7.5% to 8%, depending on the plan. Earlier in the document, there's that major changes summary. I think I have it identified in there.
Yeah, I am asking this because not everyone is gonna read. People are watching or people are planning to watch. So, okay. Thank you. Any other question for Bill?
So next I'm gonna move to stormwater.
For stormwater, the significant accomplishments were that we joined the Green Tier Waters Initiative Charter. We hadn't been a member up until recently. And so we're looking that we became a member of the Green Tier. And we hosted a rain garden workshop with 22 participants, hosted erosion control training with 47 participants. We participated in the SaltWise booth at Frozen Assets, reaching dozens of residents, tracked the maintenance of privately owned stormwater facilities within the city, oversaw the Lake Barney Sub-Zero Stoner Prairie and Fitzroy flood studies, oversaw the design and construction of the Burn Pond retrofit project, obtained Dane County grants for the Burn Pond, Seminole Village Pond expansions to cover half of the project costs, developed the stormwater utility maintenance plan that's under review, and developed a spill prevention control countermeasure plan for the public works facility. In 21, we're looking to develop site-specific vegetation management plan for our stormwater facilities. So that would include working with the Parks Department, as you had mentioned, Gabriella, about how we work together on those and the funding for those. We're going to be developing a public education and outreach plan. The stormwater pollution prevention plan for the maintenance facility is going to get finished up, and perform GIS updates to all the stormwater facilities and infrastructure. As part of our new stormwater permit, we had been relying a lot on the regional MAM swap group, the Madison area stormwater consortium, or I can't remember what it is. Anyway, it's a regional group of all the municipalities, Dane County, and we collaborate together on our education and outreach. But the DNR has said that we have to go above and beyond that for our individual communities. So we have to come up with an education outreach plan and then implement that during our permit cycle. So we'll be starting to work on that. Significant budget increases, changes from 20 to 21. The erosion control stormwater management base freeze are updated. Estimated on the hours of process applications and the wage and benefit rates. We also have the same structure proposed for all the projects now, including plats and projects. Staff time for processing the application is going to be included in the base fee, and then additional staff time required to perform the inspections for the plats will be billed to the developer. So it's going to be more of a pass-through cost than, I guess, at what we think it could be for the erosion control permit fees. The maintenance supplies for culverts, we increased those from 9 to 15,000 to reflect the actual costs of the projects that we're planning on doing. The equipment expenses for the maintenance sweepers increased from $10,000 to $20,000 to accommodate the new sweeper in 21. The fuel is also going to increase to accommodate for the increased sweeping, and removed the out-of-state conferences due to COVID for $1,000. And the staffing proposal number 7, which was the public works crew employee, for the 67% to stormwater and the 33% to highway.
Gabriela.
I'm curious if you, so I'm going to repeat that question that I asked to Scott earlier about the ability to integrate a tree plan with a stormwater vegetation management. And if, like, we're obviously not able to replace the trees through the parks budget, but is it possible to do it as part of a stormwater management plan through the public works stormwater budget?
Yeah, I actually have some real life experience with that in another community that it was tried, and the auditors said that it was too much of a stretch to say that parks was stormwater. So they had to reallocate their budget based on what the auditors said.
And when was that? Do you ask?
2016.
Okay, so fairly recently.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's like a one-to-one, like, you know, so the parks budget would replace a tree that was removed because of the ash borer beetle and replace it in the same spot. But if we instead could replace that tree in a place where strategically for stormwater management, so it's not really a one-to-one, but thinking about trees as a stormwater management plan, is that, well, I guess let me ask you this way, and let me ask you it a different way. Is that going to be part of that site-specific vegetation management plan, is thinking about how trees are integrated into that and how it helps with groundwater infiltration?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask Claudia on that one. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll talk about it with Claudia and RCC. And the other reason I'm asking is because Tree Advisor is looking at a tree ordinance, and I'd love for us to think about trees from a stormwater perspective. And I guess maybe we can, if it's okay, I'd love to revisit the question of whether using stormwater fees would be appropriate if it truly was being planted for a stormwater management reason primarily. If we can look into that at some point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question?
So
Oh,
then,
okay.
now I'll move to building and grounds, which is the last one for Bill.
Okay. Yeah, we adjusted our custodial cleaning procedures due to COVID. We had a lot more to do with the cleaning. We adjusted the air intake handlers to provide more outside air. installed some filtration systems on the chiller towers to filter out that bacteria and the virus. We included new tops, sinks in the senior center and community center bathrooms, added outside cleaners to help disinfect the buildings due to COVID, completed several roof repairs on different buildings, installed ionization system in City Hall due to COVID, painted the City Hall interior walls, and moved several police stations, workstations due to COVID. In 2021, we're planning on continuing our LED replacement lighting, this time in the library and City Hall, replacing the countertops in the senior center kitchen, replacing the flooring in the Cyan room in the senior center, and painting the lower level of the senior center interior walls. Significant budget changes from 20 to 21 is that we removed the frequency drives and we will be removing the frequency drive and repiping that project. That project was a 2020 project, so we removed that that maintenance cost from the budget. We moved cable service to the building. Reduced the maintenance costs for the Lacey Road Fire Station due to the use of the building and recent remodeling. We increased the repairs to the new fire station now that the building is past the warranty period, and increased utility costs based upon the rates and the usage increases. Reduced utility costs for the fire station number 3 due to the installation of solar in 2020. How much of that we're putting a guess in, but we did make a reduction to the budget.
Any question? I don't see anyone in the chat, so let's move to the next one. What is it? This is the last one, isn't it?
That's it for Bill. Yep, so now we're on administration.
Okay, so any question from Bill before he leaves?
Yeah, I guess I have one more question, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the salary for the period of time when Public Works Director wasn't filled before you took over the job, and now that the Senior Transportation Engineer has been unfilled for a while now. Is that salary being reallocated or rolled over to help with the Public Works budget next year? And maybe that's a Misty question, or I assume that there's a relatively significant chunk of money that's unused.
Yeah, I can answer that one. So it's not something that would carry over to 2021. We are talking about different options. Frankly, Bill's incredibly overwhelmed. And so he's doing a lot more than what he probably can do as a person. Luckily, he's Superman. So we're looking at ways that we can help him out using that vacancy, whether it's hiring a temporary person, hiring a consultant to help do some of those projects, that stuff. So we're looking at those options now, and hopefully we'll have a plan for him soon.
So we could potentially use that money to support the Public Works Department in some way. Yeah, and I do just want to acknowledge you, Bill. I know you've been doing an insane amount of work with a busy Public Works schedule this year, and great work. I know I imagine it must have been really hard. So, and it still is hard. So I hope we can get that transportation engineer hired soon for you.
Well, I just want to put a plug in for the rest of the staff who's been incredible, knocking themselves out too. It's when Amy said ×4, it's we're all doing it. We're all putting in that level for all of our salaried engineers. So we have an incredible amount of pride in what we do and in service to the community. We want to see what's done, what's right. And right now we're putting in the extra hours to do that. But as Amy had said, it's not sustainable. And we got to start looking at other ways to do things.
I have two questions. One is, I forgot. Okay. So the traffic engineer position is you're already doing interview because it's not posted in the website anymore. It was there like 2 weeks ago, but I checked this week. It's no it doesn't show up. So are you hiding or you're in the process, in the final, that you remove it?
No, it should be posted. We posted it, about a month ago,
Yeah,
with a revised, description.
yeah, because I was planning to, to forward that job description to a list that someone asked me, and then I went and I didn't see it. So
Okay.
okay,
All
so
right.
you can take a look. The other question is about, so there is one position approved for your department, but I want to be, most 67% of the position is going to be paid from the utility department, isn't it?
Yes,
And the rest is going to be tax levy.
yes.
Okay. 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 Any other question before he leaves? No? Okay. Clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next, the next presentation is the administration, and we are going to talk about the mayor and council, administration, and municipal court.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to cover three areas here. One is the mayor council, the other is the administration, and lastly, because the judge does not like to get involved with the council, his personal view, I'll cover the municipal court also. So significant accomplishments in 2020, we completed development agreements and negotiations with 3101 South Fish Hatch. That's the juice plant where you see the 4 or 5 story building going up. We completed TID 3 amendment to encourage additional development in the uptown area. We worked successfully with HR to hire the new department head in Bill's position, and we assisted with the comprehensive plan. New initiatives for 2021. Well, and I should add to 2020, we're continually working with the COVID situation, obviously ongoing meetings and coordination. We do have a planning team in place that meets on a regular basis to discuss ongoing issues. So a lot of work in progress there. New initiatives for 2021, provide guidance and assistance in the redevelopment efforts along Fish Hatchery Road. Obviously that road construction needs to be paid for somehow. New development is the key there. And so I've been working closely with Mike and Joyce and our development team in coordination efforts trying to move forward with several different developers there. Provide guidance and assistance in the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, Healthy Neighborhood Initiatives throughout the community. We've obviously been working with several departments, including Parks and Recreation and Planning and the Senior Center in those efforts. And then, as every other department has stated, we're working on the annexation of the town of Madison. As I mentioned last night in brief discussion or in brief comments, we've had ongoing meetings and discussions with a team from the city of Madison and have coordinated departments within our community with departments within the city of Madison. And we're combining forces to try to get to best resolution of a lot of these issues out there. I did get another email from our city attorney tonight that noted that the town is ready to begin negotiations on some of the severance issues that are out there. So I know Julia had a question in regards to that yesterday. So hopefully we'll have more answers for you on that.
Okay.
Significant budget changes from 20 to 21. We removed the membership with Dane Buy Local. Like everyone else, we removed some training and travel funds. We reduced my personal or my position out of state travel funds, as we did in every other department, by a couple $1,000s also. So everybody is really in a situation where we can't travel anyway, but a lot of us are taking hard hits on our continuing education. But as was noted earlier, we'll find ways to get through that. And a lot of those programs are giving us waivers anyway due to the current situation.
Hey, Pat, I don't see our increases here.
No increases. No. You got to lead by example, right, Julia?
Yeah. Can I ask a question for the people that if people read this, you have some needs department statistic, and you have in the last row you have property tax levy. So can you explain what those number means?
I think it might be best if Misty address that. She's the one that puts together the nice number charts here. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so these numbers are all listed as TBD or to be determined because it depends on what council amendments all go through. So just looking at that 2020 projected number instead. So that first section is our personnel summary, and this ties to that personnel summary over at the beginning of the budget book that listed by department, but this is all of the employees because Pat oversees everyone. Then it's the general fund expenditure budget in millions. This is a number that we get asked for a lot and was a big component of our expenditure restraint aid. So we are at 21.5 million for 2020's budget. And then it's more than that for 2021, but it's to be determined. And then the property tax levy. So the amount of...
Oh, okay, I see it. It's in millions.
Yeah, it's in millions. Absolutely. So the amount that we collect from property taxes for city functions would be this amount excluding the TID. So 23.7 million for the 2020 budget. And then remember how the TID, the properties in the TID still pay the same taxes, but it gets diverted. So if you include that money as well, then it's the 26.5 million.
Okay. Thank you.
So then Pat, I'll move you to municipal court is also.
Okay. All right, significant accomplishments in 2020. In March, the Supreme Court suspended until further order the, hold on, let me get rid of this camera view here. It's blocking my screen. Until further order of the court, most in-person initial appearances have been successfully done via Zoom meeting and or telephone, and juvenile court and pretrial conferences with the city attorney have been done by telephone conferences. The Supreme Court ordered each municipal court shall submit an operational plan for in-person court proceedings to the chief judge of the applicable judicial administrative district. On July 16th, 2020, the city of Fitchburg Municipal Court submitted an operational plan to resume in-person court proceedings pursuant to Wisconsin Supreme Court May 22nd order. The plan explains the municipal court has communicated with the municipality regarding the protective measures and requires the appropriate measures be in place. The order was approved by the judge of the 5th Judicial District of Wisconsin. We could move down a little bit, Misty. I can't see that one. Fitchburg Court, in the new initiative in 2021, will give special consideration to applying COVID precautions to all court procedures moving forward. As you can see, significant changes from 20 to 21. Revenue budget decreased $100,000, primarily due to the decrease in the number of tickets that are being issued. The number of issues of tickets has decreased recently, and that trend is expected to continue with the public health emergency due to COVID. Obviously, unless there are certain situations going on out there in the public, our police officers aren't interacting as they would prior to COVID situations.
So I have a question for you or for Misty. So if we are getting $100,000 less, so who is covering all the other expenses for this department?
Property taxes are.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So in the 2021, how much, where we can see the amount that is going to impact the taxpayer from this department?
So we don't split it out by department like that, but this full $100,000 that we're not getting from another revenue source will need to be backfilled by property taxes because the cost of the court, which you can see here, is not going down. It's basically staying the same.
But my question is that if there is a decrease in revenue, mean that there is a decrease in work that they are doing, isn't it?
Well,
I'm sorry, Misty. It's not decreasing work. Our police officers are still out there patrolling the streets, doing their job. They just may not be, how do I put it? They may not be pulling people over for the same reasons they would have in the past. Focusing more on social issues that are existing within the community.
So my question is, so the fee that the police department is, when they give you a ticket, it goes directly to this budget. It doesn't go that revenue to the police department.
Correct. That revenue goes to offset the cost of actually functioning the court. And so I put up on the screen the organizational chart for the municipal court. So there's a judge, which you need regardless. And then there's one full-time person, one part-time person, and then some LT cashiers. So it's not a large department that can reduce their workforce because of a little bit extra or a little bit fewer tickets. That minimum level of court service still needs to be maintained.
I understand, but when you have more ticket, people go more to, you have to go in presence of the judge to,
Well, that's not always true. Most people that get tickets just pay them.
Okay.
Very few of them go to court.
Okay. Any question? Okay. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, I think I have one more for, I'm not going to do the council and mayor?
It was part of your administration.
Okay,
one.
all right.
Lee, is it okay if I go?
Yes.
So for finance department, basically everything else in the budget is numbers that come from me. I'm only going to talk about in here really the finance piece of it. There's a lot of detail in there as far as what the TID project plans are. The CIP, as amended by you guys when we went through that process, is included in here as backup support too for you, but I won't go through that detail. For significant accomplishments in 2020, so assisted with the TID 13 amendment, and then we're wrapping up a 30% audit of TID 10 right now. We did the 5-year arbitrage reports for the 2015 debt issuance to demonstrate compliance with the IRS rules. COVID, as everybody else, has been a significant impact to us as we prepare the different policies, procedures, assisting legal and HR with the different things related to COVID. And then coordinating the grant application and request for the CARES funding and the Routes to Recovery grant program, which For those of you on Finance Committee, I mentioned the rules have changed. They changed again today. So I'll report back about that at the Finance Committee. But keeping up on all of that has been a lot of time. So new initiatives for 2021. One of our long-term account clerks is planning to retire in December. She's our payroll clerk. So one of our other clerks is interested in taking over that role, and then we'll need to backfill the other person. So we're hoping to hire them in December and then train that person to get back up to speed. For 2020, we did have money for a cash review or a cash process review in the senior center, which we've done for a couple other departments recently. With COVID, that didn't happen. So we'll request that money to carry over, and we'll hopefully do that process in 2021. I need to work on a formal TID closure financial plan for council so that you guys can make those decisions and we know what the plan is before we get there, as far as how that capacity is going to be spent and prioritized with the different functions or used to reduce taxes. Also need to do the 2016 5-year arbitrage reports for the IRS compliance. And then we do have to do for 2021, or I'm sorry, money received in 2020 from Dane County is more than $100,000. So in 2021, this will be our first time that we'll have to do a special program specific audit for that Dane County HHS funding. So then significant budget changes. We talked a little bit before about the general transportation aid. So I sent you guys that email about the history of the GTA. I did include a 5% decrease in the total pool of GTA across all municipalities because that is funded by gas tax primarily. And I suspect that that's impacted pretty significantly by COVID. So that is included in here. I should get an estimate from the state any day now with what they think our GTA will be for next year. We also have a new personal property tax exemption aid. This is a relatively new aid. We got it for the first time in 2019. There was a lawsuit that happened recently and that recast our aid for 2019. So that affected our 2021 aid and then it will be reversed in 2022. So you'll see some ups and downs in that revenue line in the general fund. The big thing to note here though is that is an allowable adjustment for the levy limit calculation. So there's no impact to the levy as that continues to swing onto the levy limit calculation. The payments for municipal service budget, which is another aid program that we get from the state, we decreased that by $25,000, and that's based on the actual history of the money we've been getting for that program. Added $5,000 for that required program specific audit because of the county funding that we got. We just went a little bit over, or $10,000, I think, over the 100,000. So that extra money that we got more than makes up for this extra cost that we'll have to pay to do the audit. Removed the $7,000 for the internal control review. So the senior center was supposed to be done in 2020. That will get requested for carryover to 2021. So we took out the additional funding for 2021. My hope is that we'll be able to put that back in for 2022 to continue on the other departments. This process is nice. We have our external auditors come in and they look at that process from a best practice review as well, because they know things that I don't necessarily think of as we look at our processes. We want to make sure that our cash collection is as tight as possible. Remove the out-of-state conference due to COVID, similar to the other departments. The liability and property insurance premiums, they increased pretty significantly because the rates were increased. We went out to RFP for insurance a few years back and are committed to this company, but I know there's been talk about doing an RFP again in the next couple of years to make sure that we're in line, but rates across the board are increasing. Another thing in the insurance is we have a self-insured responsibility of $37,500 for each claim. In the past, we have budgeted for one of those to happen, but seeing the number of claims that have coming through recently, we increased our budget for that to $75,000. There is a little bit of fund balance available to get us through the claims that we've had filed in 2020, but it will be gone shortly. So increase that for 2021. And then in TID 4, which is the TID that's by City Hall and then goes up by the interchange, that's been a very successful TID. We expect to close it out soon. There's some debt that was issued for the interchange in 2011 that is eligible to be called or prepaid without penalty in 2021. And so we'll be taking advantage of that because the TID has been successful and has the cash to do so. So that will be 6 years early, and it'll save about $300,000 in interest. So that's all I have for the finance department's budget. I guess if there's questions before I go to the next steps of the overall process.
Misty, can I ask a question in general or wait until you?
You're the chair, you can ask whatever you want.
No, because we are at the end of the, the presentation, and then before we go to the resolution, my question is, I know that we have $625,000 that for the expenditure restraint. What are the projects that you're planning to use that money or to fund? Where I can see that?
Yep. So you're not talking about the capacity for the calculation, but how we're actually going to spend the $600,000.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's in this unbalanced projections.
Where is?
Part here. So it's on page 21. So these were the different projects that I applied it to. So if you remember from CIP, so we get that expenditure restraint money and we apply it to CIP projects. During the CIP though, I don't actually apply it to projects because I don't want them to fall off the radar for you guys, because a lot of times we'll focus on debt and levy. So after the CIP is approved during the budget process, at that point, then I will go and assign it to specific projects. And it's just saying, instead of taxes, they'll get paid through expenditure restraint. Where at CIP time, it was just a global $625,000 reallocation. Now it's by project. And that's right here in the bottom half of this report.
And I'm going to ask a question that is kind of dangerous, but I need to ask. Can we change some of that stuff from there?
Absolutely. From expenditure restraint, yes.
Yeah.
But if you take the expenditure restraint money out of these projects, but still want to do the project, you'll need to move property taxes in to pay for it.
Or can we delay those?
The vehicle replacements, I believe that would be short-sighted. Part of our approach that we've done in CIP has been that replacement fund concept. And so keeping up with that is what set us up to be.
My question, because they're all replacement, and this is the question that I have in the CIP about this replacement. This, they're great. This is a great strategy, but then, we need money. Alders, we need money for our project, and we need to find in other places. But my question is, can we reduce? I am asking all the options that we can. Can we reduce the replacement for 1 year and increase it in another year? Do we have all these options here?
Absolutely. Council has complete control over the budget. But I would remind you that if you use a strategy like that to eliminate 1 year of the replacement, you're setting yourself up for a problem in a future year. And these type budgets aren't going away.
No, I know, but again, we alders, we have our initiative and program, and right now we have $517. Because we need to wait for the final assessment of the city, maybe that number is maybe you will need more money. But my question is, I want to know what are all our options there from where we can get money from this budget. Where are the places that we need to go to put to fund some of the things that I want to fund? I mean, I come in with amendment, and I need to know from where I'm going to get the money, and I am looking, so this is where I ask the question, if we these are not replacement, I think we can reduce the amount. 1 year we can increase it when we have in better years, or you know what I mean. But this is the question that I ask you if we are allowed to do. It doesn't mean that we are gonna do it, but I want to ask those questions.
Again, council is allowed to do a lot of things. We have to stay within our financial policies.
Yeah.
The replacement fund is not a policy. It's a practice that we do in order to remain consistent and remain financially responsible, and to make sure that we're setting aside the amount we need to do in order to replace it. So yes, you can say that you don't want to do the replacement fund concept anymore, but you are setting yourself up for a big problem in the near future when those cars or vehicles do need to be replaced and that money hasn't been set aside yet.
But
So it's a way
we
to
can,
try to.
No, I know, but we can use debt financing to buy those, if we need to buy. It's another tool.
Not for some of those things. I mean, I would hope that we would not borrow for a car.
No, I know, but they're big equipment, very expensive equipment. We can use
So
that.
these ones that are here are not big equipment. So these are plow trucks and other trucks and police cars and things like that. The ones that are huge, the fire ladder truck, the $1.2 million one, that one we are borrowing for still. The squad, the $600,000 squad, we're still borrowing for. These were all the smaller ones.
But why I want to ask a question, because that one is why the public works plow fleet replacement is so expensive, $210,000 every year. Why? Because
Yep. So we have a fleet of plow
How
trucks.
many
I
there?
have to go back to the CIP to look at that detail.
Okay.
So with the CIP, at the back of every replacement fund, there was the list of each one of the vehicles that was included in the replacement fund, what the estimated life was, and then you just divide that to figure out how much you should be setting aside each year in order to do the replacement when it comes time. And plow trucks were on a pretty cyclical thing. So I think we do about one a year, which is about what $200,000 would get us. The CIP would have more detail though, if you wanted to know more.
Gabriela, you have a question.
Yeah, I was hoping you could, for anyone that's watching that wants to learn a little bit more about the document, where can people wanting to understand the property tax implications, where in the document should they look to understand that?
As far as what the budget means as far as property taxes?
Yeah, like how much per $1,000 of property are we going to end up paying? Obviously, the other property taxes from the other, the school district and such aren't incorporated that, but the city share.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good summaries in the beginning of the book. Ones that I would pay attention to based on your question would be these tax rate numbers here. So the assessed value tax rate is the one that your constituents would really be talking about when they say mill rate. That's the rate that they would pay based on their assessed value. They're all purple though at this point because we don't have the assessments finalized. We're still going through that board of review process, but you could see that amount here. The other page that I really like in this document, let me get there, is this one here. So we use the average home as a way to figure out, what our property tax implications have been over the year, because there's that relationship between values increasing and then that mill rate and how that interacts. So we use that average home as kind of a gauge to see what it's doing. And this far right column that, again, are all purple because the assessment is unknown at this point, but should be in this ballpark. This shows us that on the average home of $330,100, they would pay city taxes of just shy of $2,600, and then it splits it out by function. So you can see that average home pays $582 in police, and they pay $80 of their bill goes to parks, $8 would go to Fact TV, etc. So I like this one because it's another way to kind of show exactly where their tax money is going.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other question for Misty?
I would still like to talk about next steps.
Oh no, Aaron has a question. Can he ask? He has a comment.
Yeah, I was just gonna, I guess, chime in, on the replacement cost. Can you stop doing it? You can, but we're adding more things to that replacement cost schedule because it provides a little bit more certainty and prevents the peaks and valleys. And really all you're doing is kicking the can down the road for a future budget. And like I've talked about a few times, and you've even seen on your time as council, every year it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder. By pushing off those costs, you're making next year's hard budget even more difficult by doing that. And it's a huge challenge. And I understand the desire. There's so many great things that we want to do and things that I would have liked to put in here for the foreseeable future with the town of Madison costs coming, especially. It's just unfortunately not going to be a thing for a while, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of great things that I would love to do in our community, but you're kicking the can down the road for some of these replacement cost things just isn't helping. It's actually making things worse for future councils. And that's what future council or past councils did to us to help make it a problem. And now, at some point you have to try and bite the bullet a little bit, but it's not easy. It's a struggle.
I understand your position. I have been in the council for 5 years and I never had the chance to put something that I really want to do because, for the last 5 years, so eventually we need to, we elders, we need to have a little leeway there to do something, you know what I mean? And that one is my question, I am looking for places where, I really want to bring amendments, but I need to look from where I'm gonna get the money. And I am asking question about the replacement. The replacement is something new. We started doing when? In the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know, yeah, and I know that is, I still, this is like it's a good thing, but on the other thing, we are putting a lot of more constraint in the budget because, so we try to plan, we need to be proactive for this big expense, but on the side, it takes money from your budget at the end of the year because we need to allocate those replacement funds and, and I understand what we're doing because believe me, I work with number every day, I know, but I need to, I want for the other new elders, they know, that, it's going to be harder to bring new ideas because believe me, I have been in the council for 5 years and every year is the same, you know what I mean? And so but I am concerned about that. You know what I mean? I am concerned because, yes, Misty.
So since you brought up the levy limits, I just wanted to point out that in this document, we also have a page that shows that levy limit calculation so that you can see how it's changed over the past several years. So back 2015 through this 2021 budget, you can see how we used to have a lot of levy limit capacity, and councils in the past have chosen to spend that on different initiatives. And so that's what's really set us up to not have as much capacity anymore.
But we didn't have the replacement in 2015 or 16.
Correct, but we had $1.3 million of levy limit capacity.
Yeah, but now we because now we have 500 because we have all these replacement fund fees there,
I personally don't think that's true because in the past we would have still replaced cars at certain times. Now we're just spreading it out so that it's even rather than having that pipe.
It's affect the budget. So, okay, so,
next steps?
Yes.
So can I ask one more question? Sorry. We talked earlier about the contingency, like the general contingency fund for the budget. And you talked about best practice percentages versus like what the city's typically done. Can you just talk about what that contingency is set at this year versus what theoretical best practice might be?
Yeah, so best practice is half of 1% to 1% of the total budget, which for us would be about $100,000. what is in this budget, because it's been the same amount for several years, is $12,500. So yes, there's a contingency fund amount there, but especially as you've noticed, budgets are getting tight. You know, a lot of the things that were more discretionary have all been eliminated, and we're really getting down to just our core services. Having a bigger contingency, I think, is going to be even more important as things come up, so that you can take it out of the contingency rather than having to shift around other services.
Got it. So 12.5 thousand again this year. For
12,500.
12,500. Okay, thank you.
But, you know, I'm gonna throw another comment. Have the city or you, Misty, consider, I know that you have, people that have done a lot of going through the budget and looking at things to reduce, because we are under COVID and another stress. Have you considered saying, you know, we need to do another extra 1% extra cut in all the budget over the board? You know what I mean? Have you had that conversation?
So I'm sure you've noticed through the conversation the last 2 nights that there were a lot of tough cuts.
No, I know.
That were already made. Back to the idea about the across the board cuts, I personally think that those aren't the best way to do it either. Because you look at some of our departments that are basically a 2-man or a 2-person shop that has mostly personnel costs and nothing really else, to tell them they have to do a 10% cut or whatever, versus another department that has less reliance on personnel and has more, I'll call it discretionary, non-personnel costs, makes a difference. So I don't think across the board cuts are really the way to do it. I think if you want to reduce something or reprioritize funding, the best way to do it is to look at our city and say, what are we providing that we don't think is as important as something else? And we can figure out what that cost is, and then that can be removed that way.
Okay. Thank you. So, you're gonna explain something additional for the budget, Misty?
Yep. So also included in the resolution that approves the budget is adopting the fee schedule. So that's included in here as well towards the back end. And then I wanted to talk about schedule. So right now we are basically done with kind of that information gathering stage. And now you're at the point where you want to think about what your priorities are and making your opinions about what you think is more important or is the most important that the city provides. So that's really where those amendments come in. So the budget process is very similar to the CIP process, where council now has an opportunity to put forward amendments. Those are due to me on October 15th, which is a Thursday at 4:30. These should be in final form. So if you're asking for me to help calculate how much savings you would get from reducing some service, something like that, that needs to be done before then. The actual final amendment would be October 15th. And then keep in mind that if you do want to add a new initiative, there most likely will need to be something else that's removed, unless it has a different funding source, like a grant or something like that. We also have the EMS meeting coming up. So they have their annual meeting with all 3 municipalities on Thursday, October 15th as well. This is going to be available via Zoom, I believe. So that'll be a good chance for you to go. If you want to make any changes to the EMS budget, that's really where you need to start that conversation. We need to make sure that the other municipalities are on the same page and are approved through that budget, and then it filters down to us. Before that, actually, so at our next council meeting, we will have a public hearing. So this is where the public will be able to weigh in on the mayor's proposed budget, and that is before the amendments are due. So then the amendments are due. I will have a committee of the whole meeting to talk about all of the amendments. This will be a pretty long meeting, and at Julia's request, we've already moved it up to 6 p.m. To try to give us a little bit extra time to have these discussions. What we'll do is we'll go through the amendments one by one, and we'll do all the discussion, or at least most of the discussion, at that committee of the whole meeting. This is where you'll ask your questions, you'll debate it about what the priorities are. And then when it comes to the November 10th council meeting, we'll have another public hearing where the public can make comments on the council amendments. and then you guys will actually act on each one of those amendments. So this will need to be much more streamlined. This is, if you remember, we have the time restraint, so it's 10 minutes per thing, per amendment. Each council person is only allowed to speak twice per amendment. The intention of this process is so that all the discussion happens at that separate committee of the whole meeting, and then you can come to the council, basically say why you're voting one way or the other, and then just vote. We generally will have 50-ish amendments, and even at 10 minutes apiece, that's going to be a pretty long meeting. And some of the amendments go much longer than 10 minutes. So we try to keep that very organized and get through them. At the end of that night, we might have to go through amendments a couple of times to make sure that we have a budget that meets levy limits. And then at the end of it, assuming we do, we will actually adopt the budget and then set the tax levy to go on the tax bills that go out in December. So also in here is the council amendment form. So this is the form that you will fill out to let the council and the public know what your amendment is. I emailed you guys all the Word version so that you can enter it in there. So just have a title. It's best to do just one alder as the sponsor. That's the person then that's going to initiate the discussion on it. But of course, everybody is welcome to participate in the discussion, but it's good to have just one person submit it. And then you'll put in your description of the amendment, the what, and then the rationale for the amendment, which is the why. And then there's an opportunity for me to add notes and then what the specific account numbers are that are affected. I encourage you to talk to the department heads that are affected by the amendments you're proposing, just to make sure that you understand the full context and the full implications of the amendment that you're putting forward so that you can make an educated decision. And then if there's anything I can do to help, definitely reach out to me as well. I'd be more than happy to do that. So that's all I had. Julio, we do still need to approve the resolution though.
Oh, I have another question. I remember that Valerie sent, I don't know, like when, but I remember like to the council the instruction for that night. I think there are some instruction, so people read that the instruction before they come to the night, so they know, what is the rules of the night. I don't know.
One of the first things that you guys will approve before we actually get into the voting on the amendments is kind of those ground rules. So we'll have a separate resolution that lays out the ordinances, so you know what that is as an attachment, and then also that reconsideration process that we might go through.
So the other question that I want to mention before, that reconsideration process, that I don't like it, so that one, we can change it, isn't it? If we decided that we don't want to do that.
You can, but you have to have a budget at the end that meets levy limits.
But this is what you have the osmos then resolution, isn't it? To make any change we can do, put it there or no?
So the reconsideration process is the way that we go back and make sure that we meet levy limits.
No, I know. Oh, I am referring to that sometimes we approve some of the amendment, and then at the end of the night, someone come and go back to your amendment that was approved and they change it. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yep, I understand. I completely understand. It is very frustrating. I wish we could go through all the amendments one time and at the end have a budget that met levy limits. But if we don't, we need to have a process by which we can go back through and make sure at the end we have a budget that can actually be approved.
So, because I want to mention to the new alder, it can happen. That you think that you have your amendment is approved and then.
Yeah, the hard part is that they're so interrelated. So we could approve, certain things, but if those things make us exceed levy limits, something has to change.
Yeah. So
one thing we do though, to try to help that process a little bit is I'll order the amendments in a way so that it's all the stuff that is taking money out of the budget first. So then we can have a break and know how much money you have to add back in. And then we'll go through the amendments that add the stuff back in. So it doesn't make it a perfect system, but that should at least help a little bit.
Yeah, so. Yes, it's budget is a very unusual night, So, okay. So, do we need to approve this?
Yes, so you need to approve the resolution that's in front of you, R-17420. This is the Finance Committee only, and it's with the understanding that the approval is contingent upon future amendments.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve resolution R-174-20, adopting the 2021 annual city operating budget.
I move to approve.
Who's gonna second?
Second or
You
no?
don't need a second.
And a second, okay. So all of the favor say aye.
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 Nays, the motion carries. So next, we have such other matters. What is this?
There is nothing else to report.
No? Okay. Aaron, do you want to say final words? I am giving that opportunity.
No, I think, you see the challenge that I faced putting this together. It's, there's very thin, and I wish there was more room to do a lot more stuff for our community.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is why we need to bring more housing, be smart what development we bring to the city to increase the tax roll. Key. Okay, so announcement. Next regular Finance Committee meeting will be October 13 at 5:30 p.m. And then I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor to adjourning say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for participating.